Hello all. I hope you are doing well. Um thanks for being here a little bit. And thank you for being thanks for gifting a sub to Katie. First sub of the month, hopefully. Hopefully more to come. But thank you. It's really kind of you. It's really, really good. Anyway, Spirit Spiral Out, bro. Oh, Spiral Out, bro. Hello, hi. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. We're gonna have a discussion about Israel. You guys know how I feel about that situation. And how passionate I can get. I control myself. I got another thing happening this week on Wix channel where I will debate that as well, and we'll see how it's gonna go. So it's kind of a little bit of a dry run. I'm gonna throw it out there. Okay, but here we go. Let's get started. Get to the right area. Get everyone get real excited. Hey all.
Hi.
Howdy.
It's weird we're recording out here to greet me. But I guess we'll survive.
I feel like it is in the best interest of everyone in America if whites start bringing back white terms.
Okay.
I'm sick of whites not having their own cultural lingo anymore. All right.
Sure.
I want to bring it back.
Never had culture.
We got to bring back howdy and oh, those guys will bamboozle you. We got to bring back, our own Southern idioms that only white people say. Easy as shooting
you just
a fish
said
in a barrel.
Southern, so it's not just white people, is it?
Hey,
It's
can we
Southern
be 10% less retarded today and just go with the joke?
Oh my God. That's great.
Just
Scott.
10%. Just 10%.
Jesus Christ. That's sweet.
Jesus Christ, also a white culture.
White culture.
For some reason, StreamYard
Jesus
is not
was a
allowing
blonde,
me to use my camera.
blue-eyed, beautiful baby boy.
Your camera's being used by something else then. Probably the situation. There's any other program that's using it, end that and try it again.
Don't worry, it only took me 2 years to figure that out, and I still fuck it up.
I don't think.
I'll be like, "What is going on?" And then I'm like, "Oh, I left it on
my camera's
OBS."
being used on.
Are you using a streaming service right now?
No, I only have Discord and StreamYard open.
Discord. Try.
That's weird.
Closing your browser.
Well, actually, hold on. Did you do? If you just, what browser are you using?
Chrome.
Chromium. Okay, so you probably did an update, and you might have to reset permissions. It might just not have permissions to use your webcam on the browser, and then go into settings and manage site permissions.
Okay. All right. I'll do that and try to get back.
Yeah. We'll be waiting. Yeah, I don't know.
What if we all just went to another Discord link and we weren't waiting? We're like, "You're not in here," and he's like, "My camera is showing."
Yeah, but white people do have things that other people don't say, like older dash. That's the thing.
Yeah, but that's you like millennials. We got so hip hop became mainstream, and for whatever reason, we just got rid of a bunch of cool. It became uncool to say all the white terms, and I'm ready to bring the white.
You know what
back,
you should do? No, and this is I really feel this way. You should use UK idioms. They have the best. English have the best ones. So I wouldn't mind that. War. Sorry, would you say? Tyler?
We beat them in a war. We're done with them. They got to use our idioms and colloquialisms.
I mean, I generally agree with you there, but I mean, still, I think they managed in their field while they're looking in rooms to come up with some pretty good colloquialisms.
Like it's all sixes and sevens.
I haven't heard that one. That's one.
It's all sixes. You haven't heard sixes and sevens? That might be an old school one. It means crazy. It's like you see it in Clockwork Orange. Is like the first time I heard it, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Don't fuck me about, Scott. That's a good one.
No, that one can stay over there.
Why do I?
That one sucks. That's just cursing in the wrong order. Like I'm good. I'm out. Like no, that's not unique, right? Like we need something.
No, they got a few. They got a few good ones. I'm blanking right now, but I know they have like, and I love it every time they say when I talk to English people and they say it makes me smile every time, even if they're mad at me. In fact, I love it when they're mad because like it's even more hilarious. Big fans of the terms.
That's always the best thing to do though. Like right, like just imagine like we're like running into a thug. And like is ready to mug you with a knife, and you're just like giggling, and they're like, "What's so funny?" And you're just like progressively laughing more. It's like you British people just sound so comical.
Yeah. Oi.
Oh, you taking a piss?
Yeah, taking a piss. I like that one too.
No.
Yeah.
I'm
but
gonna restart my computer. I'll be back.
Sure. And we got more people coming eventually.
I don't think restarting the computer is the issue here, but I'm gonna let him do him. My bad, guys.
Fine.
No, I was talking about chat. Sorry.
Okay. So there was something I wanted to ask Lactoy about, and this is what happens when I don't write these things down. Because I had it was about cops.
It's a good show.
No, not that. Oh, yeah. Now I remember. So, the thing that police lawyers say all the time is, of course, don't talk to cops, right? Something happens, you're involved in the situation, don't talk to the cops.
That's not true.
Well,
you are supposed to talk to the cops. Lawyers say it all the time. And what you say is that you're invoking your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. You would like to speak to your lawyer, and anything I say after this point, even if I say yes or no to whether or not I want a glass of fucking water, does not magically mean I'm no longer invoking my Fifth Amendment right or my desire for a lawyer, please.
Mm-mm. Well, what I want to ask specifically is about being a witness to a crime. So I had just heard, it was basically actually about the Megan Thee Stallion thing. She got shot in the foot and Tory Lanez went to jail. But like I never followed that very closely. People I knew followed that closely, but not me.
All I know is that black people are very free Tory, and it's very confusing to me.
Some black people, I don't know.
Hashtag not all me right now, motherfucker. You know what I mean.
But like there was a witness there, right? And there was recordings. There was a recording. I guess I don't know who made it. I imagine the police made the recording of him talking to the police immediately after, like when there was a first response, right? And he was saying like what he saw. He's like, I didn't see much because of the distance and all that, and it was dark because it happened at night. And then later on, he apparently, from my understanding, again, I didn't follow this closely, he testified at the trial, and what he said, from what I've been told, was a bit different. So in any case, okay, great, he's here. In any case,
word,
I want to know, like, I gotta drag him in. Like when you're witness to a crime, right? Some shit's gone down. And the police are coming
allegedly
to talk to you about. Yeah, allegedly. Like, should you talk to the cops then?
1 second.
I trust the police.
Hold on. Speaking of white phrases, let's not bring that one back.
Damn.
Okay, here. I don't know. This is a really tough one. So you can be compelled to testify as to what you've seen if you're not in danger of getting prosecuted. So you could be forced to do it whether like the cops show up and demand an explanation from you on the scene, I've seen cops threaten obstruction. Technically, I don't think that's proper. I don't know really if that they can do much there. I mean, generally speaking, the best advice is if you're concerned about yourself getting in any trouble, just say, I don't want to talk to you guys without an attorney present. And they may just say, okay, well, we're gonna, you get an attorney, well, let's arrange a time to meet, and then you'll give a statement. That potentially could be the case. I mean, if you can talk to the lawyer, you can potentially be hard ass and wait till they force their hand on the subpoena. But they can issue a subpoena and make you come and testify as to what you've seen. And at that point, you legally have to show up. You have to say what you saw, and if you lie, that's perjury.
Yeah, I mean, subpoena, I think is at that point it's fine because like I'm doing it in front of like court members, right? And it's all written down, and it's not like a cop is going to relate what I said I saw, and then maybe change it around or something, right? That's different for me, and I'm fine with that. But like, you at the time, well, you're not guilty, right? And the cops are, looking for suspects, right? And at first you aren't a person of interest, but then you say something, and when you're honestly trying to relate to what's happening, and all of a sudden you are a person of interest. So like, it's like from that perspective, like when you're just trying to honestly help, but you can get, things can be turned around on you. Like, it's like, I don't know.
There's a risk
there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a risk whenever you talk to the police. I mean, you don't have to. You can't lie to them, but you don't have to talk with them. And I mean, should you? I mean, if I look outside and I see like some kid get hit by a car and the car speed away and I see the license plate, I'm gonna give the cops the license plate number. Like, I normally ain't no snitch, but if you're hit a kid with like a SUV and they keep driving, that's one of those things that I think I'm probably going to rat you out on. I'm sorry.
So from the police's perspective, though, isn't that cooperation generally, if you're not the suspect of something, appreciated? I know you don't have any legal obligation to assist in their investigation, but if you would potentially be a subject, that initial upfront cooperation may help you to talk to the cops if you're not the guilty party, yeah?
How would it help? Like, what do you mean help you?
Like if there was something that happened, they had no idea who did it, and you were in the vicinity, giving details and being forthright with the police and at least seeming honest and, like you're willing to cooperate might eliminate you from a list of suspects or maybe most likely suspect now?
No, that does nothing for you. The only time that cooperation can maybe be useful is if you definitely have broken a traffic law and you really don't want to get a ticket. And you're just banking on hopefully making the cop happy.
Ethos.
It might be worth it then. So, like, for example, one time I was driving without my license. That's an easy ticket. And I was like, the cop asked me to get my license out. And I'm like, God fucking damn it. Now I have to cooperate. So at that point, I did,
There's also
cooperated with
if
the
you're
officer,
a victim, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of times if you're a victim in like, especially in like an altercation between two people, the cops don't know what happened. And usually the first person to call the cops and say, I've been attacked by another party is very heavily treated as the victim throughout the entire scenario until like evidence really starts to point to the other side. So like if you get into an let's say, and I'm just saying this, to the boys, right? Let's say your girl starts a domestic violence dispute with you and like beats you out of nowhere and starts hitting you and putting bruises on you. And like, then you like shove her and you're like, I need to get away. A lot of dudes will be like, oh, I don't want to call the cops because of like embarrassment or because like they feel like they're not seriously injured. And then what'll end up happening is that girl, if she's crazy enough to beat you, might be crazy enough to then hit herself once, call the cops and say you got into a fight and that you started the fight and you hit her, and you will be treated like the assaulting party. And you might end up in jail for no other reason than the fact that for your masculinity or whatever, you didn't want to call the cops. And so a lot of times if you're in a situation like that, especially where there are no witnesses, it can be in your best interest to call the cops, even just maybe so that like it's filed that like, hey, you called, this lady hit me.
It's true. The state works on documentation, if you're trying to get on like some sort of work disability, you should be like documenting all your doctor's visits, all the times you missed work, all these things. Like you could get your co-employees to put together different statements that they can say like, this person's deterioration has been X, Y, and Z, and I back their blah blah blah. The documentation, getting somebody on the record, especially for something like that, absolutely necessary.
To be fair, Scott,
Yeah,
I
that's
actually think that even if you as a guy will end up calling the police, depending on how things play out with your partner, as a dude, you still might get the initial interaction with the police go not your way, even though you were the one calling.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
I'm not saying it's a fucking guarantee or anything. I'm just saying
Yeah, of
in
course.
physical disputes, generally the person that calls and says I was attacked is like there's been a lot of studies that show that like what police officers hear on the radio from the dispatcher has heavily biases the entire interaction, right? So when they get called from the dispatcher saying, you know, domestic violence dispute, or like two guys in a bar fight, or like what, like it doesn't need to be your spouse, right? Like, and they hear like, oh, this person was a victim of some type of like crime or whatever. That is their framing for the entire fucking interaction. And because we're dealing with cops, right? They tend to be slightly below average IQ people, right? Like they're not really capable of critical thinking skills, right? They're more often than not they're fairly like I'm not saying they're like mentally challenged, they're just not that smart. And so that bias will affect the interaction even when presented with additional evidence at the scene. And it's like, of course, keeping your mouth shut, you know, and getting your lawyer can fix a lot of that, you know, as opposed to self-incriminating by like saying stupid things.
Do you think
that
that
aren't
is
even true.
that there? I know that there's actually studies about like intelligence for police officers, but do you think it's more that there isn't a structural incentive within the police to use more critical thinking skills, or is it literally intelligence? Because I doubt that. They're
I mean,
smart
I think, well, so like there are a lot of factors, obviously. Never do a univariate analysis, right? But I would say the biggest one is cops that aren't people that want to be a detective or a cop or, you know, an agent of some kind. Well, the high IQ ones that go to college get filtered out by federal organizations. And then at the low level, if you do a couple of years, and you're intelligent, you tend to take tests, get your collars, and then become a detective. Or a lot of times they get recruited towards other federal agencies. Like I've known, you know, a friend that, like, you know, because he did really well and he, you know, did on tests and had good record, he became a federal air marshal, right? And so I think the biggest factor is actually just that those that are high IQ get plucked out for promotions or go into federal agencies or become state troopers because the money's better and there's more prestige. And so like the beat cop that responds to your house is usually going to be someone without that much experience or someone that couldn't make all of those other kind of organizations.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully like, I don't love IQ arguments, but I definitely think like first responders, especially with like police and when they react to calls and when they arrive, like a lot of the times there wouldn't be people that are highly experienced, or they are, but they're just trying to quickly resolve and move on. It's not like they have a lot of incentives to make sure that they're arresting the right person and that they just want to wrap it up. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't do a
great.
univariate analysis. Like I think this system has problems, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I think there are a lot of issues, but if I'm just talking about like my claim that cops are dumb, right? I don't think the institution is lowering their general intelligence. I would say that the institution is either selecting for slightly lower intelligence or, as I said, plucking people out of that system that tend to be higher intelligence.
Just on the subject, and we can get started after this. I don't know where hopefully the other two will be here soon. But like there was a fighting game player who was, you know, famous within that community. This incident happened in Korea where it was a domestic dispute with his wife.
So a violent man, got it.
Yeah. So it was in
Video
Korea.
games make us violent.
And he like the situation, like so I think what happened was like it was something that happened, like years ago, and then like the police report came out, and then the FGC responded, fighting game community, responded by banning him like immediately, like across the board. This is a whole thing about who gets banned and who doesn't. It's very fascinating. About that. So you can't basically. He was a professional player and he couldn't go to tournaments anymore, right? But then like he'd been trying to clear his name, and eventually he did like this whole stream. He like laid out these texts. He laid out like evidence and like misunderstandings as to like what things mean within Korean law, right, as compared to what American law is, right? So like this whole thing, and it from the evidence he laid out, even with voice recordings too, between him and his wife, and her admitting to lots of things, it seems that it wasn't a situation that was painted that she was the aggressor. Of course, I'm not there. Who knows, right? But that's what it looks like. And he, like, with this evidence, trying to present it, his name doesn't get cleared, right? And he's still banned. And so that happened. And then just 2 weeks ago, this person who is a fantastic player, another person by the name of Umisho, just be easier if I use their name. They won a video game tournament, right? They got first place. But why were they competing? Because that person was banned. Why was that person banned? Because previously they accused another player of like sexually assaulting them until it was proven otherwise, right? And they admitted, oh yeah, I made it all up, right? So they got another person banned, and then when it all came out, Umasho gets banned, right? But now they're back.
I'm lost. The story is completely like you tried to condense an hour-long YouTube documentary into like
that wasn't
into like a 2-minute
separate
speech.
incidences. Like,
all right, like I'm lost.
Anyway, there's one person who accused a champion, right? A champion player accused another player of sexual assault. That wasn't the case. The champion player lied, right? The champion player gets banned. Now they're suddenly unbanned. Like after like a few months, they're back, right? Even though they like they were trying to ruin another person's life. So that's what I'm just talking about, like these situations as to.
Yeah, there's like two different anecdotes, right? So I mean, like it's not that helpful because I mean, like I don't want to. I don't know anything about.
It's not trying to be helpful.
The culture of Korea, right? But like,
no, this
isn't
Korea. So
in general,
it's not a.
Sorry,
I'm just making a statement about how these things are treated. So we were talking about domestic violence. And
yeah.
How, like,
but the first case you brought up was in South Korea.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, I don't know if there might be cultural context I'm missing or whatever, but I would say that there has been, especially if we're talking about a case from a few years ago, I think the concept of like the fatigue around cancel culture, both from the left and the right, kind of from everybody, has grown, right? Like I think if you're talking about 3 or 4 years ago, we got a little, like everyone in Western society, including in Korea has its own issues around feminism and things of that nature. We got a little crazy with cancel culture, and I think it doesn't matter whether you're left or right now. I think a lot of people are just kind of feeling like when someone gets canceled and then it gets resolved, they're ready to be over that. But again, these are just two anecdotes, so I don't know. That's my take.
Yeah. Okay. So again, the point of this was just to talk about like
shut up.
How society treats these two different individuals. And
we don't know anything about these two individuals other than the case.
Obviously, you don't. I'm just explaining. I'm just letting you. I'm just saying the thing. Okay. You don't have to draw mass conclusions from this, right? You don't have to have a firm opinion on this and say, okay, now I understand the situation. I'm just like letting you know a thing. But okay. It's fine. We can move on.
I gave you my general opinion and said I don't know much about the cases.
You didn't have to give me. I wasn't asking for your general opinion. I was just like, hey, I'm sharing something.
What the fuck are we doing here? Are we not on a panel? Is that not what you're trying to do? Is
Yeah,
fill
Lactoid.
time by general
I
opinion?
wasn't trying to
Are
fill
you,
time.
Scott?
I was just relating to something that
Fucking
had
Lactoid,
happened. That's
man.
all.
Always
Okay.
Sharing
causing
is caring.
problems.
I was
Thank you,
responding
Brian.
to something you had said before. I'm like, okay, well, all right, but anyway, it's fine.
Yeah, Scott, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what?
All right, let's get ourselves put together. Okay. So we'll get started now. Hopefully our friend Corey will be here soon. But let's see.
Yeah, he
Dude,
said he'd be
change
late,
that
but he didn't say
fucking
by how
background. I
much.
swear to God. Just change the damn thing. Do it. Frogman, do it now.
Doobie, you've received a command.
Wait, what?
Change your stupid background.
Fuck you.
No.
Oh my.
Oh, that's rude.
This escalated quick.
Good to see you too, Katie.
Fuck
Alright.
you.
Okay.
The Doobster.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. For being here, much appreciated. This is Reverie Roundtable, which we have Mondays 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're even starting someone on time. Amazing, right? Congratulations to us all.
27 minutes late?
27.
What?
Come on, we usually start at 10. So, so let's anyway, thank you all for being here. Reverie Roundtable. If you like what we get up to, we find yourself coming here often. Consider supporting the channel, sub to the channel, give bits or give subs. Really appreciate those who do support. And yeah, we'll move forward. The topic for the day. Republican Representative Thomas Massie, in a Twitter posting, has called for an end to American aid for Israel. This comes alongside of other prominent conservatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, who have also said similar statements. All of this is happening at a time when Israel is being criticized on the world stage for slowing aid to Gaza to a trickle. What are your feelings toward Israel at this point? If you're on the left, have your feelings changed since Biden was in office? If you're on the right, are you concerned about the fiscal burden being placed on the U.S., just like the previously named prominent Republicans? Or do you feel that supporting Israel fulfills some vital role for America, and so we should support our ally in their time of need? Thomas Massie, puts out a tweet, basically saying Israel's killed thousands, which have, and it's kind of gone off long enough, and we should stop support. And Tucker Carlson has been on this beat for a long time, like questioning our aid to Israel, but also to Ukraine, but just like questioning our interventionism there. Marjorie Taylor Greene was, I think she voted against the anti-Semitism bill. I want to say one of those bills. I'm not sure which one. I can't remember. But she's also, as I've seen her in interviews, talking about like questioning our sort of Israel. So like we see movement on the right from pretty big names, right? I don't know how much movement we've seen from like the rank and file Republican politicians, but pretty big names on the right. And I feel like we're moving towards some sort of inflection point, or maybe this is just a sign of the times, right? That like things are so bad, like so on its face bad, that it's making it hard even for people who otherwise wouldn't care about this particular conflict to get them moving. So I figured why not have this talk at this moment, see where everyone else is at. We talk about Israel all the time, usually during our pre-show, right? We end up like falling into that. I fall for it hook, line, and sinker every time, right? When someone puts bait out, and then I respond, and then we get into it. But I've been avoiding making it like a topic, because it's fucking exhausting to me, honestly. But still, here we are. I figured it's been long enough, so let's spend some time and focus on the issue. All right, so we'll go around the room here, and you can do your introductions and opening statements. Back to it.
All right, I'm Lactoid. You can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Here's my opening statement. I initially was super pro-Israel. Okay, I was horrified by the events on October 7th, which remain unjustified and were horrific. However, it's been a long time now, and something kind of has happened in the meantime. I also have the same opinion about another geopolitical conflict that we're involved in, the one in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. And I was just sort of buying into all the narratives, right? And was ultra pro-Ukraine. You can find streams of me saying all sorts of dumb shit about that. And then I was educated about what's actually going on there, about how the whole thing is a U.S. Imperialist venture, about how Ukraine is not the good guy, and it's complete bullshit what we're doing over there. And so I saw on Twitter all of like the super pro-Ukraine voices also being super pro-Israel. And there's two neurons in my head just sort of made the connection where, well, hold on a minute. If I was really, really wrong about this one, maybe I'm really wrong about the other one too. All right, maybe. So let's just take a look. And maybe just by bad luck or on their part, very closely after this, they violated an agreed upon ceasefire with Hamas unilaterally and then invaded Syria unprovoked. And I'm sort of at the position now where I'm beginning to see Israel as a belligerent nation. And I'm beginning to see them as a very large recipient of U.S. goods and both economic aid and military aid. Economic aid used to be direct. Now it's not direct, but indirect. And it's getting me to be a little bit, I don't know, I'm pretty skeptical now. I think I put on Twitter that I'm having Israel fatigue. And I think that is what's happening. I agree. Let's pull all aid. Let's pull all aid from Ukraine and Israel. We can still sell them guns, but they got to pay up front.
Okay. Thanks for that. Our friend Scott, please.
Stealing my shit. You know where you got Israel fatigue from? Yeah. So, sure. I'm gonna be the person here, I think, to speak the uncomfortable truth that people don't actually want to speak, because people love certain uncomfortable truths. So here's the real uncomfortable truth that I think a lot of Americans are with me on this one. As Lactoid said, stealing my shit. I don't have black fatigue. I have Israel fatigue, right? And that's what I said on Twitter a while ago. I'm just sick of the entire fucking region. I'm just sick of it all. Like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm sorry. Like, you can't make me give a fuck. And a lot of people are like, oh, how dare you? I'm 34 years old. I have watched the young generation latch on to like the current thing too many times to not see the fucking pattern where there's so many of these people that hop onto social media to be like, Black Lives Matter, or, we are the 99%, or, free Palestine. It's the same shit, right? It's the same shit as Live Strong bracelets, because we all had to wear the thing to show that we were the good person that had the cool fashion. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of the entire fucking conversation. This region has been a fucking hellscape for 1,000 years. The people have never gotten along with each other ever because of religious differences, because of, political differences as things, continue. The original, obviously the original kibbutzes and things like that were socialists, and then they, turn into, the monster that is Israel today. And I'm supposed to hate Israel, but, like there's this group of people that wants me to hate Israel especially. And it's just like, look, Israel's fucked up. They do a lot of fucked up things. Nation states do terrible, fucked up things. And it's like, everything you hate about Israel, you should also hate about the United States government. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, they're not this magical fucking evil, and everything else is this, and everything else is, well, we're actually pro-liberal democracy, aren't we? That's why we, took over a whole bunch of democratically elected countries and installed our right-wing dictators. because we're pro-democracy. Like, shut the fuck. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of, some video somewhere where it's like the seventh time this child has been murdered, and then Israel is like, hey, hasn't that been shown to be from Syria in 2003 or whatever? I'm sick of Israel acting like they're not bombing innocent people and I'm sick of it. And so here's what I want, and I think this is what most people want. I just want all of the money to be gone. And if you don't like living in Israel, fucking move. I don't want to give you aid anymore. I don't want your fucking activist organizations in my government. I'm sick of fucking, identity politics based NGOs getting fucking grants from our fucking government. I'm sick of news about it. As far as I'm concerned, it is time for the Lion King, right? And Mufasa needs to let us know that this region is the fucking Shadowlands and we're just done with it. Like, I'm sick of being involved in the fucking Shadowlands. That's where hyenas hang out. That's where people don't know how to fucking grow food because they're retarded. Okay, that's where they kill each other and do stupid shit. I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to bomb any dictators. I don't want to give Lockheed Martin tons of money so that we can go start a new fucking war and kill a bunch of people. They can survive on their own or they can't survive on their own. It's got nothing to fucking do with me, and I'm done. So in summation, like I said, and Lactoin, you know where you got it from, I don't have black fatigue. I have Israel fatigue. That's not IDF fatigue. That's not Palestine fatigue. That's not Jew fatigue. I'm just sick of all of this shit in the entire region, and I'm done with it. Cut off all the money to all of it. And if you want to volunteer and hop on a fucking boat with some activist organization and give food to somebody, have at it. Go do that. That's great. I support you doing that. But my tax dollars, fuck off. Like, we have tons of shit to take care of over here.
Thank you.
To be fair to Scott, I did reply to his Twitter post originally with that Israel fatigue thing. Okay, I'll give you credit, Scott. You came up with it first.
Let's go to our friend Tyler.
All right, so we're going to ignore the blatant anti-Semitism of the anti-Israeli right to self-determination that's being discussed here. And we're going to go at the core of it. First of all, Lactoid, thank you for admitting you've been wrong in the past and that you're going to be wrong today. I appreciate that. Scott, unfortunately, that sentiment you have, just based on the polling I have up on my screen right now, is not the case. Most people want to do equal to or more funding for Israel right now and do not want to do less. I'm looking at an Economist YouGov poll from May 23rd, 2026, and it's got both Ukraine and Israel. The only thing people aren't liking currently with Trump's Israel strategy. The only thing 2025.
You said 2026.
Oh, my bad. Is it May 23rd to 26th?
It was like, damn, the Jews are a year ahead on fixing the numbers on polling.
I'm trying to get good weather here in Georgia, so just bear with me. So going into the polling on it, a lot of people still support the U.S. hegemony, and I'm all here for it. I think that if we look at the actual dollar amount given Israel, not factored up for inflation, it's actually less than we've given Ukraine just for this war. Well, guaranteed to give to them in the long run. So, to be honest with you, we're not giving Israel that much. About 90% of what we give them is grants or things like that. But a lot of them were loans restructured into grants by our government that Israel was willing to pay back, that we use as incentive for deals. Like, hey, we don't like how you're treating these settlers in the West Bank. You're giving them too much leeway. We're going to drop this loan against you, turn it into a grant if you work with us on X, Y, and Z. So a lot of it was not Israel just taking things from us. It's us using diplomacy and using our wealth as our trade tool, the same kind of way Trump is doing with trade as well. So it's something we do. Democrats pay, Republicans threaten to take away. That's just kind of how the two parties work. So at the end of the day, if we need a hub in that region, Israel, we've never actually been side by side in a war with them. Whenever we're in a war there, they're providing military assistance, intelligence, and things of that nature, helping us out a lot in those ends. And we do a similar sort of backup for them. I don't think this fatigue exists nationwide. I see it as a lot of people on the internet that are very angry about it, but it's not materializing in the majority. Where I do see it in the majority, if you look at polling, is the youth. The youth are the first, like the biggest group that's actually anti-Israel right now. It's like 6-4. It's 60-40. It's not that much, but it does swing in the favor of not wanting to give them anything. When it was put up to a vote, Democratic senators, only 19 Democratic senators voted to stop selling guns to Israel. Now you could say like, oh, it's a money influence, but if we're looking at money in politics, Qatar, Iran, China, nations that aren't too friendly with Israel, put in about 10 times the amount of money that Israel does into our politics. So if you think if it was just about something like that, then they go with where the real money's at. I just don't see it as anything besides we don't like this nation's founding and we're kind of just attacking anyone that's on the side of it. So let's go Israel. We're going to win that bitch.
Okay. Appreciate you, friend. Let's go to our friend Ali.
Yeah, I don't know why America's so bad at building relationships and allies in the Middle East. Ever since we've gone over there, it was just overthrowing a government and then siding with fucking Israel. No, we sided with Israel over what? Over guilt of something we didn't do. I don't know why why we're guilty for what the Germans did. I don't know why we're paying for or trying to fix what the British did. Right? The British divvied up the land, fucked that up, and then we came in and tried. Like, we're trying to fix the solution, and all it's done, fuck the money that we've given them. We give money all the time. All it does is put us in wars. All it does is put us in conflicts. And then if you want to look at the money sunk costs, all we do is give them money because they're constantly at war. They're constantly being attacked. And it's like, at a certain point, you were supposed to be the safest region in, for Jewish people, and you seem to be the worst place for Jews to live. So at this point, yeah, like decouple. Right? If you want to look for a region, there's a region for sale, I'm telling you, just buy. Lebanon's right there. All right. Hezbollah's for sale. Just buy them. All right. You give them more money than Iran, they'll work for you. And then you can just get them out. It's the same region. It's the same area with the same countries around it. You could have all the intelligence and beef it up. I'm just saying at this point, I don't know if I agree with you, Tyler. I do see anyone who was pro-Israel a year ago. I mean, fucking even Piers Morgan at this point, Mr. Do you condemn Hamas is asking, do you condemn Israel? It's like there's a shift.
Katie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was fun. I know it's the beginning, but it's like it's wonderful to see.
Closing statement. This is.
It's just like because you see four Americans, all from a different perspective, tell you why. Well, there's one like genocidal Zionist, but the other three, right? Like the other three, they all have an analysis of why they shouldn't give money to Israel, and they're all wrong. But it's like I don't care, any rightoids, any leftists, any weird liberals who want to not give money to Israel, like, be my guest. I will not correct you. I will not tell you why you're wrong or why you're racist or why you're whatever. As long as you're against giving money to Israel, hey, okay. And fuck you, weird genocidal Zionist man. It is really... I would say it's weird, but it's actually not weird that the liberal is more murderous than the two weird, like, rightoids right next to him. Yeah, it's interesting. It's something to think about. Yeah.
We'll go to our
what's your perspective? What's your opinion? Should we not give money?
I think we could probably do it.
Dude, my perspective is that my perspective is that I don't care who, but there needs to be a military intervention against Israel like a year ago. Okay? That's my fucking perspective.
Okay. Thanks so much. Let's go to our friend Doobie.
I agree with everything Katie said, including the genocidal Zionist thing. I think Tyler's genocidal Zionist. Beyond that, I think that our relationship with Israel is incredibly damaging to the United States, and I feel like it's been incredibly damaging from the very start. And you can look up like Secretary of State Marshall, fucking Eisenhower, like they were warned, like, hey, if you do this, you're going to destroy our relationships with these countries, just as they're starting to really like come to like fruition, right? And that's exactly what's happened. It's exactly what we've seen. We have seen Israel constantly antagonize and agitate the region, and then lean on us to be the big boy behind them, right? And I think it's incredibly toxic, disgusting. I really think it needs to stop.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go to our friend Corey.
Well, I don't actually have much to add then in terms of what's already been. I'm definitely, I guess, allied against Tyler as well. Where, yeah, I think just following what Doobie said in terms of like yes, since all this money has been given over the years, I think totaling like 300 billion since like I don't know 1960, 1970, which is a lot. But then at the same time, like it doesn't seem like the U.S. actually, as far as I can tell, but I'm definitely far from an expert, doesn't actually use it to influence Israel's behavior. As in, if they're going to, there's basically no incentive for Israel to change. If it's like they're just going to be funneled money unconditionally, and so it's like as a result, I lean towards pretty much them not receiving any more money because then hopefully that actually limits their ability to do anything.
Thank you so much.
Can I
Okay,
start?
Tyler, you got your work cut out for you.
Okay, yeah, right. No, so let me say two things. Tyler,
Yep.
I appreciate your sentiment and being the brave Zionist here. When you said that Israel doesn't get that much aid money, you're correct. But they do get, other than currently Ukraine, they get more aid money per capita than any other nation in the world.
And we fund Ukraine way
Right,
too
so
much,
it's like-
Tyler.
Right. Other than Ukraine, they're number 2, right? And I think like Jordan is actually like
Jordan and Egypt are
is
the
close.
top 10 too. Yeah, if you combine Jordan, and
Right,
Egypt,
like
it's almost what we give Israel.
Right. And so when you're talking about the size and scope of the nation, as opposed to like, a large population in,
Jordan
a
and
country
Egypt.
in Africa or something that might be getting more money, but when you look at it per capita, so there's that. Number 2, I saw both Corey and Sociologic have like this bit of confusion, and I feel like you're just not black-pilled enough about how Western American imperialism works. Okay, so the medium is the message, right? It's like what it does is what it is designed to do. This is like a Durkheimian perspective, right? Like, when you're like, why are we giving money to this country? They're not really they're a great fucking ally. When they say Israel is our greatest ally, they mean it. They absolutely are our greatest ally in the region. They're not your ally as an American citizen. They are an ally of the intelligence apparatus, of the state, of corporations that are engaged in trying to topple regimes. They are a great ally in us maintaining the US dollar as the reserve currency for oil trades in the world. Like, they are giving not us benefits, but they are giving corporations, oil companies, defense contractors, and wealthy people that are enmeshed with the state all kinds of wonderful things, right? That's just not trickling down
At a
to
detriment,
you.
though.
So like this idea of like we
at a
should give them a
detriment.
little less. Yeah, but it's like, if we give them less money, like what's the behavior? No,
No.
they're already doing what we want them to do. It's just not what you, the American citizen, wants.
It wasn't just Corey and Ali that said that. Lectoid and Doobie, like everyone here seems to think that Israel is getting like free spending money from America, and America is just like the sucker. Israel is America's puppet. America is not the victim of Israel, okay?
That's strange.
Well, hold on.
It's
Both
not
things can be
strange,
true.
dude.
Both things can be true.
Wait.
Katie.
Yeah, I think so I know what you're saying, Katie. Like, I agree that there are people within the United States. I think the pro-Israel lobby in the U.S. isn't just like Zionist Jews, right? There are Christian Zionists, but there's also like a massive military industrial complex within the U.S. that benefits from the relationship and pushes the relationship because they make a ton of money from these wars.
Dude, do you think that's Israel manipulating America, or do you think that's America doing America?
I think both happen. I think there are these
Okay,
military
I'm
industrial
not
complexes within
saying-
America. Hold on, but it's like I was saying, both are true, right? I think it's also true that there are there's an Israeli lobby within the United States that uses its influence within the U.S. to push things that I think restrict American rights, that push for support for Israel, and there's like not a conglomeration. A merging of forces, right? Of like because they're like pushing toward like a similar goal, right? They all want war, they all want continuation of conflict, so they work together to make this happen. So I'm not saying that it's like a total like, oh, just Israel owns America. Like, it's not that.
I can't believe that I need to say this, but like Scott made this point. When I say America, I mean the people who own and run America. I don't mean Americans. right? America
Yeah, I understand that.
uses Israel. It's a convenient tool for American imperialism, the exact way that Fabian said it. You are funding Israel and has always funded Israel because of many benefits that the ruling class of America gets. Does that mean that that's good for American citizens? No, it's fucking not. Your ruling class doesn't give a fuck about that anyway. So why would they care about
Yeah,
that?
but at the same
That's what I'm saying.
time, so I hear you. I don't know if our distance is very far in this, right? Like, so that's true. What you just said is absolutely true. I know, and I'll actually, well, maybe except for Tyler. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that, right? But like the other half of that is that like the relationship of Israel like seems to be one fraught with danger for those inside here, even the political class, because Israel, like through their lobby, will use their money against our ruling class who happen to speak out against them, or even just slightly deviate from the party line. This is, they literally like invest into having handlers for all these people. They had a Republican, I think, congressman. Was it Thomas Massey? It might have been someone else.
Yeah,
It
it
might
was.
have been Thomas Massey. Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, yeah.
How
We talked
fuck?
about-
Look,
we
he
talked- hold on,
caucuses
hold
with
on, hold on, hold on.
Republicans. Don't
Let
you
me-
dare fucking claim our libertarian congressman.
So Thomas Massey was talking about how like every politician, right, who's like an APAC politician, has a handler, right? They have an APAC guy assigned to them, right? And this is one to to soothe them when they have questions, right, and to enforce like discipline when they start getting ideas in their heads that they're an independent person. No, you're not. Take the fucking money, right, and do what we tell
I
you
don't
to.
know if you've all, even the people who are more progressive leaning on this panel, have been completely brainwashed by this narrative that America is somehow like the poor, misled puppy in this situation. It's very
Not that it's a poor
strange.
misled puppy. It's
Well,
that they
the
work
American
hand in
taxpayers
hand
are.
to
How
their own
can I-
individual
No,
benefits.
I agree,
The
Lactoid.
taxpayers are the poor
Yeah.
I
puppy,
agree.
right?
Yeah, I agree with you that the American citizens are definitely the losing party in all of this, right? For many reasons. But you guys, I'm not saying that Israel doesn't have a strong lobby in America and that it doesn't have a lot of influence, because it does. But you're kind of like not. If America chooses to disentangle itself from Israel, you wouldn't accept handlers or APAC money, because Israel would be treating Israel like non-ally or neutral or even enemy countries. The fact that America wants to keep Israel in its disgusting genocidal bosom is why you have handlers, because America wants that shit. So Israel is allowed to run around and do whatever they want in the Middle East because it serves American interests
But we
in the Middle
agree.
East.
But we're all agreeing. I don't think we're disagreeing, unless we'll go to Tyler. Tyler's the one disagreeing. But I
Yeah,
think
but
for
the
the rest of the
Zionist
panel, no one is disagreeing with that. I think we agree. We're just saying that this is, yes, America gets a lot of the American ruling class gets a lot of benefits. We're just saying that Israel does exert power within our American political system. But we're just using different words to
And
describe
our
it. but,
social
like,
systems too.
Can I
our
add
social
one thing?
system. All right, and then we'll go to Tyler.
So I think there is an imperialist American interest when it comes to Israel, and I think my eyes have been open to this again following the shit we've been doing in Eastern Europe. But I do think there's two other groups that are pro-Israel. There is one group that I think has this perception that I think is somewhat accurate, that compared to its neighboring countries, Israel is relatively progressive in terms of like internal social policy and democratic stability. I think that's something that you do have to give them. I think that Israel does have a benefit there compared to some of the surrounding countries, and there's real benefit there. But there's this other group that I think is relatively large
Who
in
has to
America,
give them
which
that?
is, well, we on this panel, right, in terms of
No.
at least acknowledging. Well, I think we do. I mean,
Anyone that's
look,
attempting to actually ascertain truth and
yeah, I
be
mean, you can look at like
arguing
all
good
the
faith.
HDI statistics, all like the in terms of like human development, democratic standards. Israel is better than like Saudi Arabia, but better than Jordan, better than Syria, better than
Both
Lebanon,
Saudi
better
Arabia
than
and Israel are doing
Egypt.
genocide right now. I don't know.
Well, what I'm saying,
You're trying to get her to be rational in the perspective. She has
so
one-dimensional
I'm
view.
right. I'm
Don't
focusing
waste
on
your
like
time.
domestically speaking. I understand that countries can have a somewhat decent internal domestic policy, but then do some pretty horrific shit overseas or abroad or in different countries. And I think that America is perhaps an example of that. And you could say that Israel is an example of that. But I think that when we're looking at support for Israel in America, there is some rationale that we should be supporting countries that are better developed and more stable, as opposed to less developed and less stable and more risky countries, I guess, to support.
It's a Western
But
democracy in the Middle
Western
East.
democracy in the Middle
That's
East.
the
Yeah,
framing of it. You can just
Yeah,
say
but
it.
that's the framing.
We don't have to accept it. Just say that's the framing and just go on. Yeah.
Well, hold on. I'm going to challenge you guys then a little bit on this.
Well,
if you-
no,
if
because
you're really
she's not
not
going to
gonna
accept it, and that's going to be
Hold on,
the
no,
argument's
no,
going to
no,
be
no,
that.
no.
Okay.
Let
We'll fight that in a second. Yeah. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll challenge the fucking thing because all the stats kind of show them right on this one at least. But when it comes to another major group in the United States, I think that supports Israel, it's these ultra religious conservatives that have this quite literally like messianic motivation here, that believe that supporting Israel is critical to bring about the end times and for the second coming of Jesus. That scares the shit out of me. That there's such a large group of people that like actually supports another country's foreign policy, good or bad, based on that logic. And that's something that I think we got to be mindful of as well.
Christian fundamentalism, baby.
But going back to the question of Israel's domestic policy, is anybody here really going to challenge the fact that compared to all this, in fact, any Middle Eastern country, can you give me any Middle Eastern country or North African that can compare to Israel in terms of Human Development Index or democracy or any stable
that's why
constitution?
I want to ask you about that, right? Because one, I mean, like part of Israel's domestic policy is an apartheid, so let's just put that there, right? That's part of the domestic policy that is involved it, and they're for territory that they claim, they're doing ethnic cleansing. They're they are wiping out the people under their authority. So that's all domestic policy as well. But moving back from that just for a second, right? Like I know that's the framing that we all get, especially in school, is that like America wants to support like other democracies. That like we want democracies to flourish, right? Liberal democracies to flourish. But that's like not what we've ever really done, right? Like we all know, you're well aware that we support autocracies, right? Like those other nations you're saying that are bad,
like Ukraine.
Sure, and Saudi Arabia, right?
Oh, well, sure.
No, sure, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. But like in Saudi Arabia, right? Like that. That's a democracy. So you're saying someone gets a benefit for Israel being a democracy? Well, who gets a benefit, right? Traditionally, from the American foreign policy standpoint, actually we prefer autocracies, right? For stability, the stability we're looking for is that predictability in policy. So we can pay this brutal autocrat, right? And we don't have to worry about a democracy getting away because then, the people might change their mind. Maybe we don't want to give our resources to the United States. Maybe we don't want to fight for them in whatever conflict is happening around the world. If you have an autocrat, right, we don't have to worry about that, right? They crush those movements. So this idea about a democracy, like that's like, it's immaterial.
No. What I'm saying, it's material when I'm talking about like how justified Zionists are, right? So Tyler over here, he's very brave man. He's got the most pro-Israel position on this panel by far.
Yes, he's a genocidal freak.
Sure,
it'll be his turn eventually.
Yeah, you'll have credit. Yeah, it'll be his turn. It'll be his turn eventually. And you've got all these criticisms of him. You got all these criticisms about Israel. But when Tyler says, but when you look at all the metrics, Israel has better domestic policy and like the people there live better lives and they have better like democracy standards and et cetera, than surrounding countries. You would have to say, yes, Tyler, that is correct.
But even that's
however,
what's the point? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Lebanon's pretty all right.
Blackbird, I have a question.
No, it's run by Hezbollah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's not.
Do we
The
agree?
southern half. Really only the southern half.
Do we agree?
Really.
Do we agree that different people have different values inside what they consider a democracy that is more valuable to them? So for me, A country that is technically a democracy but is doing genocide is not a good democracy, and I don't care if everyone's there rich. If it's more important for you that they're rich and that's somehow a better symbol of them being a democracy because they have a functioning democratic government that does genocide, fine. But that's just an argument about what a democratic values are to you. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
What the fuck are democratic values?
Let me explain.
No.
Wait.
CIA speak. You're
let's
getting
wait.
it.
I
Come
think
full
I
circle.
I think I understand the disconnect. By the way, democratic values, that is 100% CIA speak for sure.
Right?
But yeah, like Ukraine has, domestic democratic values, despite the fact that they didn't do an
You
election
can just
according to the
open the
Constitution.
UN's website and
but-
they give you a list of democratic values.
I know. Sure, it's all bullshit. I agree with you. But
No, I agree.
it is a point in favor of Israel. Not saying that it gets them into the positive, but it is a point in favor. So like you would
It's a
agree.
point in favor if that's what you care about. Yes.
But like all else equal, I think you would care about that too. Let's say like you had two genocidal countries. One was like really pro-democratic within their own country, and the other country was like super autocratic. You would support.
Well,
like, you would
luckily,
say,
I don't
since
have
they're
to.
equal-
I just have Israel, so I don't have to. Problem solved. Zionist freak.
Hold on. That's a
If
bad
you-
example because the one of them, all of the people voted for it, and the other one is just an autocrat. And like maybe we can take out an autocrat. Like,
Well, hold on. That's not even necessarily true, Scott, because you could have like the line of secession.
said
for
maybe.
example.
I didn't
Maybe
say it
it's
was
possible.
true.
But yeah, but like let's control for that weird like fluke where like the next autocrat in line is not like the anti-genocidal one. Okay, let's just say that it's like you've got
Just throwing it out
I know. Fair enough. Let's say you have two countries. One country is like democratic and not, and this is a hypothetical, so please play along. You have one country that's like genocidal, but they're like really respectful of like constitutional rights and human rights within their own country. They just like fuck around in like other countries or
Can't
whatever.
be respectful
but
of
then-
human rights and do genocide.
South Africa. Let's say we have South
You
Africa.
know that your hypothetical is flawed.
It's a hypothetical. You got to play along.
No,
with it.
no,
That's
no.
how-
Your hypothetical.
Well, then you know how
has to
hypotheticals
not
work, Lactoid.
Be dumb.
If
Your hypothetical has to make
if
textual
you
sense.
didn't eat breakfast this morning, what would you be?
All right, Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking
All right, let's
save
go
us,
to
bro.
let's go to our friend Tyler. See what you got cooking.
Oh, quite a bit.
Let's
So
go,
I first
Professor Genocide.
an apology here to Lactoid and Fabian Liberty. I was just memeing when I said you guys were anti-Semitic in the beginning. I did not yet know the company we kept here. So, I just want to clear that up. Next, we're talking about dangers. This is something Prime brought up. If you look at the last 80 years of United States hegemony, we've had the most peaceful world. You remember history class? ICAL makes this point all the time. Remember history class, the borders would move every 10 years. Since U.S. hegemony, we have ended most major wars. There's some, like Rwanda, that Clinton regrets not getting into sooner because it was a massive, an actual genocide where 600,000 people died instead of 1 to 2% of a population during a war. But going into the next point here, the reason why an individualist liberal can assess this situation properly is because as an individualist, I have to judge everybody by their own merits. I have to look into the details. I can't just go to my ideology for the well, and then this is what my ideology says to believe, so let's go with it. That's why I came to the conclusion that I did. So now another point, again, there's been a lot said I've been trying to respond to. This idea that the shiny Jew gold is the reason why our government's bought and paid out ignores the point that I brought in. It wasn't you two that made this comment. Ignores the point that I brought in, that the anti-Israeli spending between China, Iran, and all these other countries, Qatar in particular, is about 10 to 1. So if it was just politicians trying to line their pockets, look at who's taking that Qatari money. But we could also look at all these college campuses. So this I see as a problem of the leftist elite party that has not realized that the working class has abandoned them, and they basically are taking brainwashed dumb kids and coming from an academic standard. Well, those academics are all funded by Qatar and China. And that $1 billion or that $400 billion plane Trump got from Qatar, that's a drop in the hat compared to the buildings on Harvard's campus, Columbia's campus, all these high-end campuses that took tens of billions of dollars from anti-U.S. foreign entities and pump out the propaganda we're hearing about how the real bad guys are Israel. Ignore the terror group that ended elections and offers the Gazan people up for
Israel is a terror
Hold on,
group.
I'm making my point. I heard the yammer. I listen to your yammer. I know about the martyr funds. I've listened to the words of the leaders of Hamas on the news saying they will offer up their people to die. I've seen the video footage of people that have infiltrated the UN organization called UNRWA getting out of UN cars and shooting Gazans. I saw the footage from the other day of Hamas opening fire on Gazans because they were trying to get Israeli aid that the IDF was dropping off. We have all this on footage. They are killing their own people. They offer them up willingly as a sacrifice, and they're proud of it. Iran pays for it. It's called a martyr fund. All of this is just common knowledge for decades now. To not know it at this point is ignorant. Like, if you want to say that you don't like Israel's actions, we should hold them to a Western standard, that's fine. But in no way, shape, or form are the people across the battlefield at all worthy of defense. They are the aggressors. They're hiding behind civilians. They're putting weapons caches in children's hospitals. 1/3 of the homes in Gaza City had a documented tunnel entrance. All that information is out there to go look up. Israel posted it all. To just deny all this is happening is wild.
Thank God.
As
Well,
far
if they
as,
say so.
and they, to you made another point. We side with autocrats. If we sided with autocrats, we'd be siding with China, North Korea, Russia, Iran, and all the 7 entities that Iran's going to war with as proxy wars against Israel.
Bro,
all of those
that's not what he
that.
means.
These are dictators.
That's
These
a
are
silly argument.
When was Zelensky's last election?
They're not saying
When
that
was
we're not
Zelensky's
saying we
last
side
election?
with all autocrats. We're just saying that there are individuals, especially when we look at Iran or South America,
that's fair.
where they did democratically elect people that didn't like our capitalism, and then we were like, well, let's bring in a different brown shirt with some medals.
Yeah, I'll give you that this week. You're right. I'm just saying, hey, we're
United Fruit Company's getting a little broke these days.
Just selling the notion that we've never had success. We have a bunch of democracies like Japan or South Korea or Germany that we went into after they had their incursions, and we turned them back.
Of course, you would support the ethno state of Japan, you piece of shit.
I guess they are far right, but I don't know. I've only been to the airport, so. But yeah, the last points week, I'll give you that. It was just more of a kind of dispelling his notion. You're right, though. But that's all I got. I was going through everything, so feel free to come at me, you 7 jackals.
Who wants to go first? Okay.
I just want to say Zelensky's an autocrat. First of all, second of all, I've yet to. You didn't make an argument for why we necessarily need to be funding Israel right now. Or, like, is there existence?
There's millions.
No. Let's leave aside genocide for. I know you guys.
You guys are isolationists.
Let's leave aside. No. Let's leave aside genocide. Let's leave aside isolationists.
It's just a whole different argument for you two than it is.
Sure, but I fair enough, and I'm fully recognizing that you are against everybody right now. So I'm giving you more than enough credit for this. Okay, but I just wanted to say, or I guess ask. In what way, like, do you really think that Israel's existence is under threat if the U.S. doesn't give them as much free shit as we've been giving them? Like, Egypt's not going to invade them. They're a major recipient of U.S. aid and major non-NATO ally, and they're not going to touch Israel. Jordan's not. They're the site of one of the largest CIA installations in the world. Syria's, not. Israel's already invaded Syria, and Syria hasn't been able to do shit about it. Lebanon, Hezbollah has been a little bit neutered. What's actually going to happen to Israel if we cut them off from free aid? Are they just not going to be able to afford it anymore? Why do we need to keep doing this?
Money's fungible. What they're giving them is defensive aid, so they're able to take what they normally spend on defensive aid and use it for offensive money. Like the same way when we gave Iran that $16 billion and they didn't use that for terrorism, but we saw billions go to fucking other things. So yeah, money's fungible. I get that, but at the end of the day, I think that they already have Iron Dome and whatever the other missile system is intact. I think they could probably be self-sufficient at this point if we.
Yeah, so let's cut off aid.
Literally yesterday, Netanyahu called for weaning Israel off of U.S. aid. Right, like it's a Likud policy that especially because of what occurred under the Biden administration, is that a lot of the more right-wing Israel parties are like, look, the $4 billion we're getting isn't really making or breaking what we're doing here at this point. We already have the Iron Dome. We don't need U.S. economic aid anymore. And that having their country and their military budget dependent upon U.S. aid that a president might come in and just take away is a security vulnerability for Israel, because it means that they set up their state, set up their military in a less self-sufficient thing. So it's like, if even the right wing, if even Bibi is asking, let's get rid of the aid, I'm trying to understand where the argument is, other than just certain bought off politicians that like, slogans and, like keeping certain NGOs happy. I just don't see the argument for, and you yourself said, yeah, I think at this point they already have the Iron Dome. Why are we still giving these people our money?
Yeah. You
Right?
guys are making a different argument, so I got to address that separately is all. You guys are making
no, for sure. We're not making the invade Israel argument. Correct. We have different reasons for defunding Israel.
I agree. We should not invade Israel. I agree.
I mean, we could absolutely if you convince the voters that right
you
now.
have no penises.
So the 3.3.
Wait. What'd you just say?
She said we have no
Nothing.
penises.
She made a very transphobic comment.
Was that a circumcision joke?
It was funny. I liked it. So we give them about 3.3, but that's adjusted for inflation. Right now, they're spending about 17.9 million or a billion on their defense as of 2023. So that's over about a year and a half. We're giving them about 25% because all that aid we give is not all for military. A lot of it's for humanitarian and economic reasons. As you said, the economic were more in the past, but the humanitarian, we give them money so they can relocate Jewish people from other countries to Israel. And so they could relocate.
We pay for that?
Somewhat, yes.
Yes.
We do.
We also pay for
my
health
God.
Yeah, so isn't our face on the global stage? So even though amongst the citizens, right? Like you talk about American hegemony, so on and so forth, but all this death to America and all this people that see us vote and side with Israel. It's not so much like the aid. Obviously, to take the aid, they don't need the fucking aid. Fuck them. But it's the fact that we consistently stand with them, we vote with them when it comes to these large votes. I don't even know if whatever they're called, but that affects our hegemony in a negative way. No, because I never come and try to argue from the perspective of ethnic cleansing or genocide because people don't believe that it's happening. So I'm never going to try to do it because then it just comes off as a virtue signal. So if you do want American hegemony and you want America to be at the top of the global stage, the best idea would be to decouple from Israel and then ally with the surrounding areas, and then it would grow our, face in the
We're already
world,
allied with
right?
most of them, though. We're already allied with them.
How would that help us?
But you get less death to
post-JCPOA
you get less death to America. You get less death to America, less terrorism, less so on and so forth.
I mean, we piss off Al Qaeda.
But that's not what American imperialism is, right? American imperialism is not actually concerned with our safety and security. American imperialism is about setting up neoliberal democracies, right? Which is, and then engaging in trade and relations and the expansion of Five Eyes program and being able to be a power player against other interests, right? It's not about reducing blowback or having less terrorism or having a more stable
No, I'm
region.
saying if you're trying to build relations in the Middle East, but you consistently have terrorists attacking your best ally in the Middle East, right? And you're consistently doing defense in that region due to the fact that you're allied with these people that have that's what I'm saying, decouple from them. And listen, if you ask me, fucking get rid of Israel and change it to Palestine. But that's not a conversation that anyone's gonna have. So
I'll have it.
Well, I mean, that might become the conversation.
I mean, unless you want to Molotov cocktail a few people, they'll have that conversation.
I have a question for you. Why do you think America would rather stay with Israel and doesn't believe it can make neoliberal democracies out of other Middle Eastern countries? Do you have a guess?
Because we're not anti-Semitic.
No. Well, no. Do you want to tell me? I'm not good at the drawing inferences game.
No, sure. Fabian, do you have a guess?
Oh, guess what? Sorry, I was cleaning my glasses and then
why does America doesn't think it's viable to turn other Middle Eastern countries into neoliberal democracies?
I don't think America doesn't have an opinion on anything, right? We're talking about individuals in the State Department and their interests, right? This is an incredibly vague question that's when did you stop beating your wife, right? I think Jared Kushner and people like that have pushed for, liberalizing certain regions and things of that nature. It's just very obvious that Israel's easier to control in this current situation and is more closely aligns with kind of their buddies and their interests in the moment. What is your actual question that you're trying to get?
That was my question.
Okay, well, it's a stupid question. Continue.
Thank you.
What is the motivation behind this, though? Because I can show you the money wise Qatar alone outspends Israel like 4
That's
to
not
1.
true.
I could show you the reports that have been
Yeah,
done
that's
on it.
bullshit.
They're dumping tons of money in. What is the incentive?
Wait, when you say they're dumping money into
Wait,
like
hold on.
college
Wait,
campuses, like,
can I say
oh, go
just
ahead.
really quick? So I think that the issue, Tyler, that you're running into is that most pro-Israel lobbying in the U.S. is done by like U.S. citizens. Like, I mean, a lot of times dual citizens, but sometimes just like full on like U.S. citizens and not even dual citizens. So I'll give you an example. So Miriam Adelson by herself gave Trump over $100 million, right, in his last election campaign. That's far more than Qatar spent, right? Just her by herself, right, in the same year. And this isn't. And if you were to combine it with all the other like pro-Israel lobby groups in the U.S. that are made up of American citizens, either dual citizens or just American citizens, you're going to find that Israel actually, the pro-Israel lobby in the U.S. spends far more money lobbying politicians and lobbying through like endowments, even at colleges, through like grants at colleges, than any of these other lobbies that you're talking about. And it's by a lot.
I don't think
I'm
he's saying
looking
the
at
other
it
ones are
broken down.
lobbies.
I'm looking at it broken down by nation. Israel's not even in the top 5.
Yeah, that's bullshit. That's obvious. Like,
the-
so hold on.
the
So what's
free
the
press
what's how much does number one spend?
Pull it back up. It's a free press articles I was reading on
Yeah.
this. Hold on. The first one is universities.
I'll be right back. I'm grabbing something to clean my glasses.
Sure. Yeah. What's the like number one? What's their total spending?
Total spending between 2021 to 2024, $29 billion of foreign money were donated in total to these universities.
Okay. What's the number one spender?
China and Qatar it says China and Qatar together accounted for 29 billion of 58 billion total. Okay, my bad. 58 billion total. China and Qatar did 29 billion of it.
Wait, hold on. Are you talking to the
largest
universities, or are you talking about like political lobbying?
That's just the link I went to first was the university. So right
Okay.
now, Qatar is the largest source of foreign donations to U.S. universities since 1986.
Okay. So you're talking. So are you talking about like specifically universities or like political lobbying, like
that
PACs?
one, that
like for
citation
elections.
specifically. Hold on, let me pull up another one.
Corey, you've been very quiet.
I'm
Yeah,
listening
fuck
and
Corey.
learning.
Hoo-hoo!
I can become a Zionist if you wanted to pretend.
My notes are still about.
I ignore Zionists.
When we say that Qatar and all these people are giving money to the universities, are we under the impression that like the universities are like paying the protesters? They're like
No.
Well, what's the idea? So Qatar gives money to the universities, and then what? Like, how does that link to the protests and the propaganda? What
China's
happens?
the number one political donor in terms of political lobby.
What
They
happens
They
with
build
that?
a wing. They'll make a department for like certain type of studies, and those teachers will be somebody
I
from
know
an
China does this a
organization.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be from like an organization that's pro X, Y, and Z that kind of stands against Americans' foreign policy interests. One of them was a professor. He was feeding money to some Palestinian group. He actually got removed from the United States, and his wife was one of the leaders of the Columbia Tentifada that happened in 2024. So they're still active and able in that. He was at Columbia as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I have to look at my notes.
I would say like I think sometimes this like demand, and I know like I'm not trying to like judge you. I know you're just trying to like you're asking a genuine question, sociologic, but I think sometimes there's this weird demand for the quid pro quo in like corruption and money in politics. And I see it on no matter who we're talking about, right? Like it's like, like what was the quid pro quo here? Or oh, the Biden family just got this money from China. Well, what's the quid pro quo? Where's the smoking gun? Or like, oh, Hillary Clinton got access or whatever. Where's the quid pro quo? And you'll see it with Israel. You'll see it with everything. It's like, we ought to be able to make the inference that when foreign nations or organizations or even organizations within, NGO activist organizations that are funded by our own money, that like when they're spending a bunch of money, they presume to be gaining something from this, even if there isn't a quid pro quo. At the very minimum, they're supporting an organization because it more aligns with their values in a presumably competitive market of other universities or other programs, et cetera. And so, like, I just don't think the quid pro quo, like, where is the smoking gun, is actually necessary. Like, it's obvious that when Israel is sending, when AIPAC is sending money or Qatar is sending money, or that, activist organizations for whatever political thing they're doing, or lobbyists in some regard are spending money, they think they're getting something, even if there isn't a quid pro quo. And like, that is enough for us to be like, have a cause for concern. Now, obviously, if like we find the Chinese spy that is like paying off a specific professor so that they can get access to DARPA research, and bring it back to the CCP, that's like another level, and we can be like extra concerned. But like, there should just be concern in general when organizations that don't necessarily align with our American interests, or with or have a specific ethnic interest, or a specific identitarian interest, and they're paying any of these institutions that have influence on our culture or in our government, that should be a concern, like just flatly, like that should be a problem.
Why you do
Yeah,
it
the
in
answer
other
would be to get
countries
money
all
out
the
of
time.
politics, or like influential money out of.
No, the
like,
answer is to get rid of politics.
I mean, okay.
To get rid of
Okay,
politics?
hold on. So can I ask so Tyler, while you're looking that up, right? So to be clear, so like of the political lobbying donations, like some vast majority of this that happens that are like pro-Israel is not coming from Israel. I use Mary Madelson as an example, but there are many examples. But like, I agree. Obviously, there are other nations that lobby the U.S. Why wouldn't they? Obviously, right? So that's not surprising at all. But I'm not aware of any of those nations having a lobby powerful enough that criticism of those nations is like going to be punished within the U.S., right? Which is what happens with Israel.
I think
Like Trump. No, Trump is pushing this definition, this IHRA definition on universities, right? The Republicans, not just Republicans, the Democrats too.
Democrats. Yeah.
There's been a push to pass the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which would require them to use that definition, which includes criticism of Israel, reasonable criticism of Israel, as anti-Semitism, right? So, obviously, I think any reasonable person would say this is meant to suppress criticism of Israel, right? On college campuses. So, I know that I hope that you like free speech and I think that you're an American. So this seems like something that's like fundamentally at odds with American values, right? So like, why the fuck are representatives pushing this? Obviously, it benefits Israel. It doesn't benefit us.
I can tell you, it's been in place since I think 2017 or 2018. It hasn't actually been a law since then, but it was, I want to say he did it through executive order to change, was it Title 6 or 5? One of the titles. And it's been in place since then, and then it was turned into a law so that it can be instantiated instead of just a presidential decree or executive order. It actually becomes the law, but all it does is raise the standard of hate crime for every other group on a college campus to also raise that much for Jewish people as well. That's kind of the complaint.
Yes,
That's ridiculous.
Why do we have any civil rights laws?
No, that's ridiculous. You ignored everything I
Agreed.
just said. You ignored everything
Good
I just
question.
said, right? So I'm not saying that we
Damn it.
shouldn't have. Hold on, I'm not saying that this is like something special, right, for Jews because there's some kind of like discrimination protection, whatever the fuck. I'm saying that what they're categorizing as discrimination or classifying as discrimination includes criticism of.
They got him.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh,
They
dude, I
got
thought
him.
my headphone went out for a
He
second.
must have been cooking because
Oh,
Israel
no.
got him. Yeah.
Oh God.
They fucking got him.
Hey, Doobie.
Yeah, what's up?
Go ahead. We can hear you now.
To be clear, it includes criticism of Israel, i.e., Israel is a racist ethno-state, right? That is considered to be anti-Semitism under this act, right? Which is fucking ridiculous. So this is not just lifting them to the standard of all other groups. That's not true.
Well, see, that's an argument. That's your interpretation. Like we'd have to. Go
That's what the
into
definition is.
What makes them a racist ethno-state, and all we have
Irrelevant.
is claims from NGO group. Well, if you're saying something is factual that actually goes through a process to prove, and let's
No,
say that
you're not
the
listening
State
to me.
Department in 2024 did an investigation.
What you're saying is irrelevant.
on those-
What you're saying is relevant. And I think they
Yeah,
got him now. Well, but Tyler, the
Really
reason it's
labeled
irrelevant.
them.
Tyler, the reason it's irrelevant, right, is because whether or not it's true, I should be able to say it. I should be able to say that Israel's run by fucking zombies if I want to, or is run by like fucking vampires, right? I should be able to say this, right? So the fact that this statement, true or not, is being used is called anti-Semitism, and therefore, if you make this criticism of Israel on a college campus as a college student, you could be expelled. that is obviously meant to suppress criticism of Israel, right? So I don't care if you think it's true or not true. I think it is true. I don't care if you think it's true or not true. This is common, reasonable criticism of Israel. It is not anti-Semitic. It doesn't say anything about Jews, right? So, like, why the fuck would it be considered anti-Semitic?
Oh, there's a whole argument there about the time Jewish self-determination is the state of Israel.
Yeah, but then
That's
like so
something
anything we
else.
say about the
Whole
country, anything we
bigger
say about
thing.
the country or the ideology of
Not
Zionism then
anything.
becomes anti-Semitism.
No, it's not anything. That hate crime law, again, it's been in place since 2018. It's been legally challenged, and the courts have ruled it's not infringing.
Also, why don't you guys ever
That's not
argue the
true.
self-determination of any other
that's
group of
legal
people? I never hear this for the Kurds or the Armenians or the Native Americans. It's only Israelis.
No,
It's not even
Well,
like
the Native
Jews, it's
Americans, that's a bad
Israelis.
example. They
Hold
got
on,
their own
hold on.
ethnic states.
Hold
I
on.
have
Not really. Do they? No.
the Trail of
Are
Tears
they
on
allowed
this
to have their
panel
own
like 100
country
times.
within our own country? We would never.
I have
we would never.
brought up. I have
I'm
brought
not-
up
I'm not-
returning
I'm not talking
Northern
about- I'm not talking about
Georgia.
you
to-
specifically. I'm not talking about you specifically, but I'm saying we would never, or Zionists would never,
saying.
never, and the people who claim self-determination for Israel and for Jewish people would never allow Native Americans to build their own country within our country as their own entity.
Yeah, and you
Fuck
wouldn't
that,
say,
and
and you wouldn't
fucking
say that.
never.
And you wouldn't say
Like,
that disagreeing with that, right? That self-determination, quote unquote, would be like anti, like indigenous person or something. You wouldn't say that it's discriminatory. You would just say,
They
hey,
didn't say
you
that.
just, yeah, it's stupid. But Tyler wouldn't say that. I hope. I don't think Tyler would say that, right? So why are you saying that it's true about it, like Israel? Why is it anti-Jew to criticize Israel in that way?
Well,
Or
there's
say
a
that
whole
they don't have a
argument.
right to self-determination.
For
That's
the
not
same
like they don't
reason-
deserve the land of Israel.
I mean, they could have self-determination, but this land was conquered from them. There's a whole different aspect of what the result of
Yeah,
the
so
war
if
is.
you want to do the might makes right argument, that's fine.
Well, it's not my concern.
Dude,
It's like you lost this land. Your government was forced out of this land. You were in Egypt. You came through
Yeah,
Gaza
might
to
makes
attack
right.
Israel. You were forced out of this land. If you were forced out, that land no longer belongs. It's more of a government jurisdiction thereof argument. Of
Well, then they
there's
don't
no
have claim to
governing
that land because
force.
they were forced out.
Yeah, exactly. They were forced out of that land. So there's no
Irrelevant,
jurisdiction.
Tyler. To be clear, do you
hold on.
think that it is anti-Semitic to say that that Israel is racist? I have no say.
Personally, no, but the arguments
Okay.
I've heard, there's a double
They're
standard
stupid.
argument. Well,
No,
I
there's
mean,
no double standard.
I
They're
get why
stupid
people
argument.
say it. I don't think it. I think people are more nuanced than that argument. I agree.
No,
And if
hold
it does
on,
infringe
hold
on your First Amendment
Is
rights,
free
it's
Palestine the
not.
same as Hail Hitler?
No.
That's kind of where we're getting to the point where this, like anything that Israel deems to be labeled as anti-Semitic is anti-Semitic, and we have students and American citizens being punished, or green card holders being punished at the rate of for like speaking upon other countries when they're
Yeah.
deeming like they're controlling our speech.
Okay, let
That's
me
an
offer you a
issue.
hypothetical I like throwing around here. Let's say I'm looking at the actions in Rwanda and Congo and saying Africa is a failed state. Let's take Africa away, give it back to all the places that colonized
the
it in
continent?
past. Yes, the continent. Africa has failed. Let's give it back to all the colonists that came in there before, because at least there was a lot more peace then. And anyone that supports Africa being a continent still is pro-genocide because they're allowing Congo and Rwanda to continue. It's just not a great argument to build up on. Like the premise that Hamas
America
are the
is
bad guys.
currently half the battle of failing Congo. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, that Rwandan genocide was going on before we were born.
Did I say Congo? I think I
and
did.
Rwanda are fighting in the conflict against each other.
There are more things happening in the Congo than Congo fighting Rwanda.
Okay, but that's what I was citing in my example. So if
Oh my
it's
God.
allowing that conflict to continue,
Katie just got bodied.
allowing that conflict to continue would be like saying that you're because you want to allow Africa to be in the hands of the Africanists, or yeah, we'll leave African. I don't have a Zion reference for that, so my analogy is kind of shitty. I'm sorry, but I would see that as racist personally. I would see that these people also have the right to self-determination. Now, if someone went in and conquered that land, we're talking a little bit different because history is somewhat written by the victors, and that's their land now.
Do you think Palestinians have the right to self-determination?
Yeah, they do. I thought that was what Jordan was supposed to be when they broke up
Okay.
the land. Yeah.
Well, hold on. So, okay. So then, so if I were to say, or like a Zionist were to say, right, that actually Palestine doesn't exist, right? There's never been a Palestine. They actually don't have self-determination. They need to go to like Jordan or Syria or something, right? Do you think that would be like anti-Arab or something, or anti-Palestinian?
No.
Like
I just don't think they have property
Okay.
rights to the land because the people that were in control of the government before them lost it, and Israel won it. And with any other nation, the United States, China, Russia, all of them would just say, "Get the fuck out." But Israel didn't. They've been half-assing it and trying to be kind in certain ways.
No,
That's
not
just-
kind.
I would say they have. They
What are you
before the
talking-
war, they were providing 10% of the water to Gaza and things of that
How
nature. Like
kind.
they've been kind.
Yeah,
in
after
certain
they
ways.
blockade them and refuse to let them in, like bring in their own supplies,
We
yeah,
have-
they let in 10%.
So we have to
Congratulations.
keep going back because every one of these has a counterfactual before. We have to go all the way back to the damn 40s to get to the beginning.
No,
of
you
this
don't.
Hat.
No,
You
you
do.
No,
You
I
really
think
do.
that,
Like,
so Tyler,
one
Tyler,
side continues
hold on,
launching
Tyler.
rockets into the other. Like,
No, that's such a like a one-sided, stupid way to think about this. But
It's
let's not
not.
even
You're-
hold on. No, it is though. But let's just really quickly. So the reason I brought up this Anti-Semitism Act and this IHRA definition is because you're talking about all these other lobbies within the U.S. right, and you're saying this to downplay the influence of the pro-Israel lobby, right? Whether these people were from Israel or not, right? But obviously, they the pro-Israel lobby is powerful enough to have our politicians regularly pushing to like criminalize in some way criticism of that nation. That doesn't exist for any other nation in the U.S.
I think you're single factoring on the lobby itself when really you're ignoring the component of the most egregious against the most hate crimes per capita go against Jewish people. So this is a group that also has
Tyler,
the component of
Tyler,
racism.
Tyler,
when they
hold on. Let me
We're ignoring factors is all.
let me have
are
my
Jewish
turn
people
yelling at
oppressed in
Tyler.
America?
All right, so
No.
here's the thing.
Generally.
So
What is
here's the
generally?
thing, right? Like it's the problem with trying to track foreign money, and Doobie brought this up earlier, right? Is is APAC foreign money? Well, not technically. Technically,
should
it's
have to
American
register.
money, but it obviously has a lot of ties to Israel, right? And we're dealing with an ethno state, and so we're dealing with an ethno state where where there is religion involved as well, right? Like obviously Israel, Zionism, Jewishness is kind of a bit of a special factor when we're talking about identitarian politics. And so there's also a lot of Jewish donors, right? Like one of the major reasons, one of the things that people were constantly talking about when they were talking about the Kamala Harris campaign just recently was, she has to be careful on her, position on Israel Gaza because she could lose the Jewish donor class, right? And so like tracking the money is not really the right way to go about it. What's a much more accurate assessment of identitarian politics and their power is what kind of legislation gets put forward and what kind of cultural influence in organizations and NGOs and things like that occur. And so it's fair for you to say, well, like, look at college campuses. They're funded and there is, a lot of anti-Israel, free Palestine, whatever influence there. But it's also, if you're going to do that and link those things, I think it's also super fair for you to recognize, okay, the money is hard to track, but there's nobody else with the power to put forward that criticizing a country is bigotry.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Other than Jewish people and Jewish organizations,
That's the
Zionist
point.
organizations, etc.
If you look at just the money, they're being outspent by Qatar and China on.
No, but they're not. Like you can't.
No, but they're not.
Like that's
I
the problem.
just
Is that
looked. I have it.
like when you're talking? So like let's bring up the favorite boogeyman of the right, George Soros. Right, his money isn't going to be calculated in terms of like foreign influence on a
It's not
politician.
gonna be Israeli money.
Okay,
It's gonna be American
Right.
money.
it's going to be American money from an American citizen, but he is going to have interests that align with whatever his values are. And there is a large Jewish donor class in politics that are supporting activist organizations. There are so many, if you really get into the weeds of like trying to follow the money, there are so many NGOs that are like just have like a baby website and they intentionally spend $9,999 so that they don't have to make public knowledge where they got their funding from. And there's like millions of these little organizations that are essentially impossible to calculate unless you're the IRS or you're like a financial auditor.
You're
Right?
right.
Like,
but
so
it's
like
2% of the
knowing
United
where
States.
Right, but knowing where the money is coming from is a difficult prospect. And so what Doobie is trying to say is, okay, knowing that it's difficult to track all of this money, what are the consequences? And the consequences is that politicians get primaried if they don't support Israel if they're in the Democrat side, and that politicians are supporting anti-First Amendment legislation specifically for one identity group, that no other identity group would be able to have this thing pushed at that level. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Doobie, but like I'm just trying to clarify
right.
this argument
You're
because it seems
100%
like
right.
it's getting in the weeds.
Yeah, so there, I mean, all that to say that I think you're downplaying the power of this lobby when I think it's obviously incredibly influential. Right, so I don't think we should downplay how powerful it is.
It is influential. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just we're saying that like this lobby has all this power, but when you look at the polling, it's actually just people don't like anti-Semitism, and the people support this tiny lobby by comparison.
Why don't they look? Why do they think everything's anti-Semitism? Is because of the propaganda that's being pushed by the lobbies, by the money that's being spent, right? Like this, people don't even know where Israel is, much less to know what anti-Semitism is.
What group is the most targeted by hate crimes in the United States per capita for every year, single year?
Hold on, no, that's
that little per capita.
To be clear, yeah, to be clear though, right?
So like, a lot of lifting.
It really depends what you mean by hate crime. Hold on. So not only these numbers,
hate crimes, because like a third of that is spitting. So
exactly, it's spitting. It's somebody like.
Please?
Yeah, I can.
Like the ADL will be one of these groups who say, "Oh, look at here's all the hate crimes we're tracking." They will track people saying "fuck Zionism" as like a hate crime. It's like an anti-Semitic slur, right? So like come on.
Their partner group, and then their partner group stop anti-Semitism. All they do is dox and do hate crimes on other people, on other minority groups.
ADL has had like 4 years to categorize. What was it? Those 4 people during the BLM protests that beat the white guy. Like nearly did or beat him to death, and it's like that's still not categorized as a hate crime, but like spitting near a Jewish person is. Like you can't, like many of these organizations that are tracking what is or isn't a hate crime, like every crime is a hate crime if it's motivated by hate. Like it's a nonsense fucking term to begin with.
Hate crime is like a charge, not just a term that you can track. The people that keep charging.
No, I understand that it's a charge, but it's completely subjective because it requires you to have an understanding of the motivations of the person's mind.
Which is why they're rare to charge.
If I'm doing graffiti because I dislike a wall, I hate the wall. Like that's a hate crime. Like every crime is like every crime that is motivated by any level of anger is a hate crime.
Oh,
And
no, that's not.
So the guy that threw the Molotov. So the guy that threw the Molotov cocktail, right? Do you think he threw it because they were Jewish or because they were potentially Zionist and some ideology focus?
I need to wait for the court process to play out.
I'm saying, like, if you had to infer, right? Do you think people are attacking Jews or do you think people they're attacking assumed Zionists? Right?
Probably
not saying it's good.
Probably Jews, because like they don't even know.
Can we not ascribe rational fucking motivations to a dude that
like come on. Like
the dude probably hates Jews.
I'm saying if we ascribe it to anti-Semitism, right, then we're giving them a specific motive and ideology to go with. Then it adds to like hate crimes to his point when it's not specific.
That's not how hate crimes are. So Lactoid's here right now. We can ask him. So a hate crime is
based on a protected class.
Yes,
yeah. So not a wall. A wall would not be a hate crime.
A wall would not be a hate crime.
You not only need to prove willful intent, which is the highest standard of a crime, but you also have to prove that willful intent was to do so hatefully. Hate crimes are very rarely charged and even more rarely convicted. Less than 1% of crimes, violent crimes, are hate crimes. If you look at the federal, it's even lower. So this is something you have to prove as a very high bar.
Do you think it's possible that maybe hate crimes that are persecuted are more often that happen to Jewish people than, let's say, Black people?
Black people are not per capita anywhere close to Jews, and they're also the most likely to commit.
Can Tyler answer?
Yeah, I have the statistics pulled up in front of me right now. It's like 3-1. Jews are the most persecuted for not just non-violent hate crimes, like
that's not what I asked you,
but also more violent. What is the question you asked then?
I asked you if you think there's a likelihood that maybe hate crimes, so for example, spitting on a Jewish person, is more likely to go through trial and get labeled as a hate crime than, say, if someone spat on a Black person.
I have no reason to believe that's the case.
Black people don't trust the police, though, right? So they'd be less likely to report hate crimes.
That could be maybe not. I don't know. I don't have no reason. I need to see data to show that like maybe one group is less likely to say they're the victim of a hate crime, but I haven't seen that.
Yes, definitely. Black people
You
are
know-
very known to approach police with. Okay. Yes. Good. Thank you.
So, like,
What?
so okay. Let's
hold on.
What? You go first.
I just want to really quick. So, because I've looked into the hate crime thing before, right? Like, so I'm just looking it up really quickly because I don't remember it being that much a difference, right? I don't remember Jews being that much higher. And it's saying that. So the first website I find, of course, is the ADL. 63% increase since 2023. And again, what they're tracking as hate crimes is questionable. But even if we were to accept that this is like that these are all actually hate crimes, right? Whatever the fuck that means.
What year?
I think that it says a 63% increase since 2023. Because in 2023, African Americans were actually had a higher percentage of hate crimes per capita, right? So like since 2023, there's been like a boost on the Jewish side, right? So given that there is this conflict, and given that a lot of Israelis, Jews tend to tie themselves to Israel, and a lot of people in Israel ties itself to Jews, right? They say, hey, we're the Jewish state, and they attempt to like claim all Jews, even if a Jewish person has no intention of ever going to Israel, doesn't support Israel, yada yada. Israel will say, hey, we're the state of that guy, right? So there is a connection being drawn intentionally between Israel and Jews by Israel and by pro-Israel groups. So I think that I'm not saying that it's good for this to happen, of course, but I think you should expect that when a nation is specifically tying itself to a group of people, if that nation is doing awful, terrible shit, it might lead to an increase of like attacks against that group of people.
Yeah, did you see
And
what
so,
the
like,
Jews were wearing?
Wait, what?
Did you
Oh,
see what the
boy.
Jews were wearing?
Oh no, don't
Oh,
do that,
boy.
please.
No,
Don't do
I'm
that.
looking at
That's
the
ridiculous.
2015 to 2017. What you're looking at is just race-based hate crimes. If you encompass in race and religious-based hate crimes, 2015 to 2017 was the spike, and since then they've been the highest target of hate crimes in the United States.
Can you post that? Because that's not what I'm seeing at all.
Yeah, Federal Bureau of Hate Crime Statistics in 2023 reported that. Yeah, I'll get that up for you.
Well, dude, but you should know you're responsible for like half them, right? So
Fuck yes.
So something that I wanted to go back to, something that Tyler said quite a while ago. I don't want to overwhelm you because I know you're doing something else right now, Tyler. But I'll just like
Take green out.
sure. You're talking about how, or you talked about how well, first the military that Israel aids the United States and military campaigns. Like they're there providing us with support and intelligence, and yeah, of course that makes sense because Israel has been pushing us to go to war within the Middle East. Like they want us to take out these targets. Iraq was a big problem for them. And they pushed us to go to Iraq, and of course they provide us with support. They've been wanting to destabilize all their neighbors, right? So anytime we have some sort of intervention with one of their neighbors, then they're there. Now they're pushing us for Iran, right? Like with Netanyahu and his cartoon bomb in the well of the Congress.
Now?
Right? Not now. I mean, not now. I mean, yeah, for like a long time. I mean, a long time.
now,
Yeah, that was
So,
my
like,
joke. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. So, like, of course, they are there for us, 100%. Like, the point is to get the United States to do their dirty work. So, like, this isn't a point of their defense. This is what they do. This is like, this is how they reach their larger political goals, right? To have their own a bit of hegemony in the Middle East.
How did they push us into Iraq exactly? I've never heard this before.
Bro, okay. How old are you? What?
Wait, you've never
what
heard-
is happening?
I've never heard this specific narrative.
How old are you?
37. I lived
You're
through
30
all this. I was in high school for this.
Okay. So I don't know. You must have been under a rock, right? But during
No, I've
the
never
lead
been
up,
under a rock.
He was under Iraq.
Right.
I was just in the UAE
Right.
recently, though.
right? Like, so, like during the lead up to the, the Iraq invasion, like Bibi Netanyahu himself came to Congress and was telling us that there was weapons of mass destruction and that Israel was the one that provided the majority of all the intelligence that there was weapons of mass destruction. And they were like, you've got to do something about this. Like everyone's going to die. Like, all the children are going to, be gassed by sarin gas. And they were like describing in detail shit that they were just making up. Like Israel intelligence was just making up weapons of mass destruction, and then they were selling it, and then they were pumping it on our media constantly over and over and over again.
So they were
like
making up
without Israel's influence. Like, I mean, we probably still would have gone to Iraq. Let's be honest, because Foundation for New America.
That's what I was.
But or what is it? Foundation for, I can't remember. Foundation for Cultural America. One of those fucking heritage foundation groups where they were like, what we need is a big terrorist attack, and then we can go invade the Middle East and do this shit. And then 9/11 happened. They were like, fuck yeah. But yeah, no, Israel was a huge player in our presumed belief that there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq when there wasn't at all.
There
was no evidence.
There wasn't.
No,
There was 5,000 to 7,000. Do you remember the burn pits that they did in Congress a few years back? Those burn pits were the decaying bioweapons that they found there. 5,000 to 7,000 reported by the New York Times.
I don't look. I understand that they had gas stockpiles and there may have been like other experimental weapons. But like none of them reached the threshold of like
none of them worked.
Mass destruction.
They fit the definition that they were using. The problem is none of them work. So all that could have been prevented if Saddam Hussein just let the UN inspectors go and take a look at these bunkers that he decommissioned. No one would have had to invade. But the fact that he was also disobeying the UN,
had to invade
multiple other people, yeah. Yeah,
hold on. The claim at the time, to be clear, was that they had a stockpile of weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons potentially, right?
They said around 10,000.
Like that was the claim. Now you're saying, oh well, they had burn pits for chemical weapons that didn't work. Like that's an entirely different thing.
I don't think they ever said they had nuclear weapons.
Yes, they absolutely did.
I think the nuclear comment came from talking about Iran, not from talking about.
No, hold on. One of the major. No, there was a claim that they were. There was a claim that they had nuclear weapons. Either they were in the process of making them, or they already had them. That a stockpile of them.
That was the whole yellow cake.
Like,
talking point. Yeah, that's a big thing. They dragged out. What's his name? Face. A black general who died. What's his name?
Colin Powell?
Colin Powell. Thank you. I should know that. But anyway, yeah, Colin Powell. Thank you, Corey. They dragged out Colin Powell.
This is how all black people know each other.
We should. I met him in the meetings, but Colin Powell burned his reputation in front of the UN selling this, right? He says that he was simply given this intel and told to run with it by his president, so he did what he had to do. But who knows, right? But in any case, he goes there. He shows there's the aluminum pipes or whatever the fuck, right? All things for centrifuges. He talked about how these things are moving. They have satellite imagery showing all these things. He laid out the evidence in front of the UN, and because he has such a high reputation, Colin Powell, which he didn't really deserve, but he has such a high reputation, that helped convince our allies. Oh, I guess this is happening, so we go in.
What I'm looking at here is it was claimed that they had Iraqi military leaders in Africa trying to buy nuclear weapons or parts of nuclear weapons in another continent. That's what apparently was said, and the weapons inspectors found it was false.
Yeah, I'm looking through Wikipedia. They didn't have bioweapons. The program had been dismantled in the 90s. Yes. They did not have bioweapons. They didn't have nuclear weapons.
Working weapon. Didn't have working.
No. They didn't have anything. Nothing was.
I can tell you.
Yeah, you can tell. You can. Here, listen. If you can show me something that proves that Wikipedia is wrong, I'm more than happy to be shown that. I mean, Wikipedia has been wrong on other things, but this is at least very intuitive in terms of what I've heard from everything else. So, I mean, if you have evidence contradicting that, I'll take a look at it. But my understanding was that, and it still is, based on a cursory Google search right here in the middle of the panel, is that Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction. And we were told before that invasion that they had it. Dick Cheney said that they had it, that they had weapons of mass destruction. And this was cited as a reason for launching one of the most catastrophic geopolitical blunders the U.S. has gotten involved in the past 50 years. A complete disaster. We handed that country over to Iran.
I threw it in the group chat. There were thousands of old WMDs in Iraq.
Uh,
5 to 7,000.
hold on.
New York Times.
Are
Wait,
these-
hold on. Old because of the program had been dismantled in the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah, so like that wasn't the claim. The claim was that they had been working on these weapons for like over a decade, and that they had some. Right, and so we had to
Yeah,
go.
I mean,
right?
We didn't know.
the exact quote from Bibi Netanyahu is, "There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons."
Yeah.
Right.
That
So it's
they
like
had- they said they
there's
had
like a
before
double
something
speak. There's a double speak here, right? Where it's like he's seeking and advancing towards, right? Which is basically any level of evidence would fit that, right? And so there's, sure, if we want to get into the nitty gritty about the claims that were made and whether or not, if we get technical with it, right? Like all he needs is one piece of intelligence that he was like, well, can I get some yellow cake if someone's buying it, right? And now all of a sudden he's got a nuclear weapons program that is, but that is on the brink of destroying, Israel. But the thing is that what we were talking about originally is the influence of Israel in terms of agitating towards us going towards other wars in the Middle East.
Did we do our
And
own
we're
that
seeing
is
the same thing with
absolutely
Iran
what
right
is
now.
occurring.
We did our own
We're seeing the
intel
same thing with
reports
Iran right
after,
now.
right? Like if somebody comes to us and says, "Hey, some bad things happening," do we just jump in 10 toes down, or we do our own intelligence report?
Well, when it's fucking Israel, apparently we
did
do.
our own, but we did our own. We
Like,
had all
what the
these things
fuck?
that the U.S. put out. Then the U.S. intel's apparatus was looking into this for years as well. So it's not like
Right,
we
but
just
the thing
listened
is
to
that
what
like
they said.
Israel is a part of the Five Eyes program. Israel intelligence is like a very large part of how we understand what is going on in the Middle East, and they have fed us bullshit that is aided in our decision-making process, both as the American public and from the military, the government, whatever fucking thing you want to fit into that square peg, towards going towards wars. Now, like, is there an argument that if Israel didn't exist, we would have gone into these? Like, there's no way of knowing that, right? But the claim here is, like the overarching meta conversation, right? Is Israel actually aiding and helping us in the region? Are they helping towards bringing peace about, and security towards our nation? Are they aiding us, and the American citizen? And the answer is a resounding, overwhelming no. They're just taking money and getting us involved in conflicts that aren't fucking helping us. And they're influencing our politics. Now, to what degree, we can get nitpicky about to what degree, but like the answer ought be, if you're like super pro democracy based off of the opinions of people, it should be to the most minimal degree possible. Now, I don't give a fuck about democracy. The only thing I'm currently concerned in this fucking conversation is our money being stolen to go to people that aren't helping us at all.
Tyler, I want to nitpick something. The link that you posted indicated that thousands of chemical weapons that were expired were perhaps found throughout Iraq.
Yes.
Two questions, or I guess two statements / questions. You would agree that chemical weapons aren't necessarily WMDs, right?
Yes, but based on the definition that they were using in this, most of them essentially fit that. I don't know the technical definition.
That's not what the article says. The article says that thousands, because yes, Iraq did have chemical weapons and they used chemical weapons back in the Iran-Iraq War, but they had dismantled the program, and so it would make sense that perhaps there would be caches found throughout the country.
Yes.
But I don't think that. First of all, they were expired, as the article indicates.
Yes.
So they were non-functional. Which was in direct opposition to what we were sold to go into Iraq. And also, even if they were functional, that wouldn't necessarily make them weapons of mass destruction.
Well, that was apparently the term WMD. Assault rifle isn't a real word either, so maybe there is a technical, and then maybe that was used politically, colloquially, absolutely. But the reason why we went in is because there's a process for this, where they have these weapons registered, and they're refusing to give them back, refusing to let UN inspectors go in and take a look for them, make sure the maintenance is up to date, make sure they're not being used against their people, which was the actual claim that started all this, was they were using against their own people. Then none of that would have happened. Absolutely. If Saddam Hussein would have let UN inspectors in to come take a look at those weapons caches, none of that shit would have happened. 100% agree.
Okay, but you agree that like Dick Cheney did say that there were
sub from iCow, I believe, and he sent a message.
Yeah.
Thanks, Corey.
Oh, okay.
I got to be good for something.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. says oh, he resubs. Thank you so much for the 42 month resub. Hans Blix made the determination of not WMDs. We went around him to claim that they were there. I'm guessing he means like the administration went around the Bush administration went around them. I so I'm like I gotta look this up. Like I feel like there were inspectors who went in, but like let me back up before and check that out before I make that claim. But go ahead, you guys. While I Google this.
There were in the
Yeah,
90s
there were
when
some
they were
that were turned away.
decommissioning. They
But-
started getting turned away as time went on. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's different though than the claims that were being made by the U.S. administration going into that war, which was they have it, like they have WMDs. We got to go in and stop them from using them. Okay, this level of confidence, these direct statements made by people like Dick Cheney, was used to invigorate a response by the United States and led to a catastrophe, a geopolitical catastrophe that has essentially handed over Iraq to Iran, and also led to ISIS and all of that bullshit, right? So I don't know. I like to have a little bit more surety before we start blowing shit up. I would like that.
Sure, there was an intelligence failure. They admitted to that, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. It was a mistake, but I just don't think they lied so much as there's a little more to the summary than you're giving it credit for. They did say, like, they're hiding this from us. We don't know for sure. And the fact that they're not working with us to alleviate this makes it a problem as well.
Okay, but that's okay. I can agree with you to a certain degree that there, potentially there was incompetence, right?
Lieberman?
Right. But the problem is, having lived through it, and you lived through it too. You said you don't really remember this, which I mean, maybe you just weren't interested in like news at the time. Whatever, that's fine. Not a lot
You're
of
looking
high
at
school
it in
kids are.
hindsight.
But like when I was watching it, right? I remember the media blasting, over and over and
WMDs.
over again. Like, like there was, it was Bibi Netanyahu talking about Iran, and they would like, even though it wasn't involved with Iraq and Afghanistan, but like they would show Iran and they would be like, and he was showing that picture of like the ticking time bomb with the marker.
And this
it's
was
like,
right after
they're
9/11.
90% the way there. And it was like, it was this constant deluge to try and make America, get behind public support for invading a country that we now know in hindsight, right? Like I can appreciate the recognition, even though I don't want to give too much, good faith to warmongering, genocidal, sociopaths that, ran the State Department. But nevertheless, I can recognize that they thought it might be a good idea. But in hindsight, we can recognize that that Saddam Hussein was a balancing factor of stability in the region, and that when we count the deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan, we are drastically reducing how many deaths are actually occurring, because we have to look at ISIS, we have to look at ISIL, we have to look at al-Nusra, we have to look at Yemen and Iranian involvement there. We have to look at so many other things that likely would not have occurred if we had maintained Saddam Hussein in the region. And it's like we've said before, we've worked with dictators before, to sociologic's point, right? I'm not I don't think in most circumstances it's beneficial for us to work with, Muslim countries, but in this instance, we would have been a lot fucking better off getting more of a relationship with Saddam Hussein and working in that regard than we absolutely did with Israel. And I think the data kind of shows that we kind of fucked ourselves by being too pro-Israel and not pro-Saddam Hussein enough.
I don't know if I'd quite put it like that.
Yeah,
but.
yeah.
You're kind of giving me a really good argument there.
So I don't want to go too far.
No, every politician all of these politicians are goddamn monsters. I'm working with the fact that they're all fucking monsters. They all steal, they all kill, they all murder, they all cheat. Okay, and in that regard, I'm gonna. You know what I mean? Like maybe maintaining a fucking diplomatic relationship and not invading another fucking country because bad guy does bad things. And then we, consequentially realize that we just led to the deaths of millions from that decision.
Yeah,
it's a bad idea.
I just want to pull back on this and refocus the conversation. The cartoon bomb that happened, I believe, in 2012. That was under Obama administration, not right after 9/11. But with the Iranian,
what did?
The cartoon bomb,
Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah, no. The cartoon bomb that
Charlie
Netanyahu
Hebdo is
has
a
brought
good
in front
joke.
of Congress.
I want you to know I
think you said that
appreciated
the
it.
lactoid that you said that was just after 9/11. Maybe you were.
No,
referring
I
to
said
something.
the invasion of Iraq was right after 9/11.
Okay, fair enough then. Yeah, but anyway, the point is that back to Netanyahu. The point is, uh, we're discussing if Israel is.
I might be confusing certain aspects of media propaganda designed to get me to support wars that happened for most of my childhood and adult life, for
I
a
know.
troop
There's been
surge
a
at
lot.
some point,
There's
as
been
opposed to like the
there's
initial
been a
invasion.
lot.
My
No
bad.
worries. No worries. But in any case, like that did happen, right? That was a moment in time where they had the cartoon bomb, right? Where Republicans that invited Bibi Netanyahu to Congress over like the um uh over the pushback of the Obama administration, and he gave the speech. And I think like Democrats for the most part boycotted this. If I remember correctly, maybe not. I don't know. But in any case, um, like so you weren't aware of this history, Tyler, right? Of with the Iraq situation. Now you might quibble. You might say, well, there were some WMDs, but like or something that counts as WMDs. But we've shown that the claims that are being made, right, specifically by Israel, were of a much more serious nature, at the very least. At the
I
very least.
addressed that a little bit. I said it came from our end. We did a follow-up investigations with all of our intel departments.
Okay, so I'm not sorry, to be clear. Netanyahu helped sell this to the public. Yeah, okay. And not that the administration didn't also want to do this, the Bush administration. So, okay. In terms of the invasion, and looking back and seeing like their track record of truthfulness, right? When we as the public, because we can only judge this from the outside, right? None of us are in the Trump administration. None of us were in the Biden administration, right? And going back, so we weren't there. So like now, as we're doing here, as civilians, judging the truthfulness of these statements, could it be that when Israel makes statements today about this current crisis, right, which has lost some support globally, right? Within the American public, they've dropped support only a little bit, but like in terms of global image, right, it's been completely damaging to them. You think that in this situation, that Israel might lie about what's happening, right? Like might lie about what. Okay, good. I got to get that. Okay, fair enough, right? So let's talk about something else that you want. You said, and this is what I have been trying to drive at before, but we got distracted, right? Talking about what happened at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation or Fund, I forget which one, the GHF, the massacre that just recently happened. At least 32 dead, hundreds injured. Foundation, thank you. When starving Gazans went to get aid, this new organization, right? UNRWA was thrown out because, like you said, Israel accused them of working with Hamas, right? And being generally awful or whatever, right? And so they got rid of it, and they said, well, we don't know worse, right? Because we can simply create another organization and they can do the same work. In fact, they can do it better. Well, we've already had two instances where the security forces of IDF and maybe some American mercenaries there as well have been firing on the Gazans coming there looking for aid, firing on them. We have eyewitness reports, right? Eyewitnesses from people who were there, and then those given by doctors who've been treating those individuals. They were fired on by Israeli drones, Israeli tanks, Israeli soldiers. They fired on these people desperately looking for aid. And then Israel, yeah, I mean, this just happened. The Witkoff, now it's being, some people are calling it the Witkoff massacre, naming after Steve Witkoff because he had, because of his decisions here as a U.S. envoy. In any case, right? That happened, and then Israel says, "Well, oh, that wasn't us, right?" The flower massacre that happened months ago, There was another. It's almost the exact same situation, except there wasn't an aid organization around the situation. But like there was aid. People came to the aid, right? This convoy, and then Israel soldiers fired on them. They lied about it. They released footage saying, "Oh, this wasn't us." The New York Times did analysis, like, "Yeah, this is an obvious lie." Even the New York Times has been in the bag for Israel. Said this is an obvious lie. They've lied again and again. When at the start of this war or conflict, whatever you want to call it, right? At the start of this situation, there was that incident. Yeah, maybe you guys remember where a missile landed near a hospital, right? And they said, well, Israel would never do that. Obviously not. See, that must have been Hamas, right? And any implication otherwise, well, see, that's anti-Semitic. It's anti-Semitic to say that we would fire on a hospital. But then since then, Israel has bombed nearly all the hospitals, destroyed nearly all of them, right? So, looking at all that, right, with the clarity of being in the future, right, of looking into the past, can we say that maybe Israel, like, we cannot trust their words, that they are, in terms of an ally, an untrustworthy ally?
I would say, based on the examples you gave specifically, no, because I would say that you're talking about the IDF food depot the other day. We have video proof showing that the Hamas blockade set out a mile out that was opening fire on Gazans, was responsible for most of the deaths.
Yeah, give me that. You brought that up previously. Give me that source if you could. Because I also have source like from Peretz talking about how Israel funds gangs to steal from convoys, to cause general chaos within Gaza. They're like funding these gangs who are just roving around, right? And then when they do something, they can say, "Well, that's Hamas that's pulling those actions."
They found
I'll love to take a look at your evidence. Go ahead.
Yeah, they found the Hamas warehouse, I think, in the last couple of weeks where they were storing all the aid. Since the IDF had the first successful aid mission to actually get aid to the Gazan people since the war has started, because we saw Tony Blinken there about a dozen times. He went to Saudi Arabia even more to beg for oil from OPEC. But when he went there, he saw several trucks go into Israel and get...
Is someone watching? Sorry, is someone watching something in the background? I'm hearing like TV noise or something.
I think it's probably Tyler when he comes off of mute when he speaks that you hear the background. I assume.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, we'll give him a moment.
All right, so there was that incident. There was about it was in my background. I'm sorry.
No worries, friends. No worries, friends.
So they said that they have video footage of Hamas was actually firing. Afterwards, Hamas publicly released a statement. Any Gaza they see with the IDF food packages will be shot on sight. The official Hamas government said that afterwards. So it's pretty clear.
I definitely need is this in that link as well?
No, I don't think it's in that link. I think that was just the video.
I got 403 for... Oh, no, never mind. It loaded. It didn't load it first. I'll take a look at this from the Jerusalem Post. I'll look at
that one for you as well. On top of
take
that, I would say that those are kind of being misframed a bit, and we saw what happened to the rebels, the anti-Hamas rebels inside Gaza. The IDF was even trying to protect them, and Hamas went and killed all the leadership of that group.
That's not... Hold on. So there's been reports for months now that the IDF has been working with criminal gangs within Gaza, like criminal. Yeah. So and there have been reports that those that early on, like months ago, even that those were the groups that were stealing a lot of the aid. That what would happen is they get through the checkpoint, and then 100 meters down the road, this group would pop up with military gear right in front of the IDF and steal the aid. Right, and they've set up a compound within, I think it's Rafah, where they set up a compound where they're allowed to have guns and armor that's provided by Israel, right? So, yeah, I know that there's been like fight between that group and Hamas, right? So, like, if that group is some kind of criminal group that's stealing aid and attacking aid workers, then yeah, I'm glad they're being fought, right? And there was a story months ago where the Gazan police force ran like a joint operation, quote unquote, against this group, and they were the police chief was bombed by Israel. He was killed by Israel, right, for doing this. So, yeah, like
They
So,
found
like,
multiple
this is-
warehouses run
this
by
is-
Hamas slaves.
This is exactly
yeah, I'm sure Hamas
the
has
type
taken
of
some
conver-
aid.
And I understand that this isn't per se an argument, right? Like I will preface that with this, right? That this isn't per se like an argument about the veracity of the claims of the details that we're going through while Tyler like looks for the source that in the video. But this is exactly the type of shit I was talking about when I say like Israel fatigue. Is that like there is this massive need every time like everyone, like it's the new hip thing to be pro-Palestine. So you have this giant group of people that have no idea what's happening whatsoever, but it's like it's the current thing right now. And then what ends up happening is you have tons of media organizations that come out with reports based off of like what Hamas claims. And then you have like the IDF come out and be like, none of that's true, all of that's a lie, and then they present their evidence, and then eventually you get some investigative report or some follow-up or something that says that like either the IDF completely lied about it, that they're full of complete shit, and that they did do all the things, or that, oh, we have to review the numbers, or, well, there was some extra evidence. And it is this fog of war that there is so many like political pundits and people that are trying to have the right take immediately about so many different incidents. And I think it is just contributing to this general malaise that so many people have about this issue. And it's like, I really do think that like, while I don't discount, your desire to, find out what occurred under certain excursions and blame the right people, I think it is a part of this general malaise of just like, dude, can we just be done with the lies and the bullshit from so many different sources and so many different places and just stop giving these people fucking money? Like I'm like we're done. And I do think it's part of the reason why so much of MAGA, as stupid as it is, when they heard Trump be like, we're talking about fucking actual ethnic cleansing, and it's like they were like, yes, please just make it a resort. Can we just be fucking done with the entire conflict? Because I think there are some people that genuinely care. There is a much larger group of people that are pretending to care. And I think there is a much larger group of people that are just done with the entire fucking state and the region. And I think that is part and parcel of why we should just defund this, because part of the reason that we have to care is because our fucking money is involved in multiple domains.
Hold on, Tyler. I'll because I want to interact with you again, and I want to bring in Katie because I feel like she has words to say, but we have to draw it out of her. But we'll go to Scott just for a second. Friend, like, okay, first of all, as a political matter, right, to accomplish my goals, I'm happy with anyone who says they want to defund the state of Israel, like in terms of American support, right? Like, if you want to do that, right, well, then you're on my side and you're going to solve my immediate political problem, which is to stop the genocide. So, hooray, right?
Well, probably not. To be fair, like that, like it's probably not going to stop any of that. It's just going to not have your money going to it.
He's saying at least your intention. At least the intentions are aligned.
Yeah, our intentions are aligned, right? So I want to argue with you on that point. So
and getting
great,
the money
right?
out gives a lot of the American support out of it, which I think is what gives them the shield to do a lot of the shit.
Exactly. Yes, and denying the American support on the global stage, right? Like that, it would be amazing, right? Then other countries would feel safe, like instituting sanctions on Israel or whatever actions they take, right? Things like that. Fantastic. So if you are on that level, first of all, thank you, and I appreciate you, right? Just for that alone. That being said, right, like you brought up how like, well, there's a group of people who don't really know what's going on. Well, that's the case with every political movement. I've been involved with other like causes in the past, right? And I've talked to people.
I mean, like South Park had like a whole episode about it, like that the SCAUSes, right? We need a new bracelet for the new thing.
Yeah, but I've talked to people in the past, right? There's a political ask that's being made, right? And then it is making waves within the general public, and then others come in, right? They all have different levels of attachment to that cause, and some absolutely none. But it's a popular thing, and so there they are. So I admit to you,
I mean, it's every political cause.
every
Yeah.
political cause, right? And you can like do interviews with people at the site, and then you can make a news story that says, oh, these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and it's like, well, you just interview random people who are just like there, whatever. So I hear
Yeah.
you, right? But in terms of like morally, well, yeah, conservatives like don't have their objections to this tend not to be the loss of human life. They don't tend to care about these things, right? Like it tends to go to be about the money, right? Like, oh, well, we're putting so much aid is going out. Couldn't that be used in better ways? I agree with them, but my focus is always going to be on the lives lost, right? Like actually, in terms of the actual dollar amount, I don't actually care about that. Like actually, not at all. I don't care. But what I
Yeah.
do care is
But dollars are lives.
Is there sure an ethnic cleansing campaign? So I care about the human lives, the organic lives, right? Like maybe dollars are also
What a
lives,
hippie.
okay?
But
Maybe
no, I'm just saying,
together,
like,
together, you know,
dollars
you
are-
care for the
but
ethnic cleansing, he
yeah.
cares for the money, same,
Yeah,
same
my
outcome.
Well, I'm just
my
saying, like,
focus.
Yeah.
You can use those dollars to maybe have like supported programs for Americans that could keep Americans alive, right? Sure, but that's not my focus. My focus is always going to be on like the immediate deaths that are happening for the ethnic cleansing, and so like that's always going to be a divide between us. Like what our focus.
I think that's a like a, and I don't mean to like insult you, but I think that is a gross mischaracterization of
Okay.
conservative thought. And the reason I say that is because when I say that dollars mean lives, right? I think the conservatives are not jumping on the emotional reaction, of like, this specific, death or whatever, but they do value life, and I think the value is recognizing that like every dollar that is sent is it ending conflict, is it giving us, are we getting a return? Because like they're not libertarian like me, where like they're thinking this taxation is theft, like this is a loss of my liberty. And that's not what the conservative general thought is about, like return on investment. Like, is this money stopping war? Is this money creating peace and stability? Or is this money just funding and furthering shit and we're getting nothing from it? And so, yeah, you can say that the cost benefit analysis is a cold, calculated way of looking at it. But I think the cost benefit analysis is also is just a different view of a utilitarian calculus of human life and loss of life, because they're thinking about the things that they value and how that money isn't aiding the people that they value. It's not aiding Americans. Like, they genuinely are look like, what about veterans on the street or whatever, right? Now, Republican politicians, different fucking beast, right? Because they don't give a fuck, just like the Democrats don't give a fuck. But when we're talking about general conservatives, I think they are worried about lives, but they are worried about the downstream consequences. The conservative thought is understanding that that money is just furthering death and it's not making things better. And so it becomes this pragmatic view of like, where can that money go to make the world better and make things better? And it certainly isn't funding two sides of a war.
I think
So
to
I don't-
piggyback off of that real quick, he's right. I think he's missing one essential component of this whole idea between Obama as well. It started. We don't. If you look at the details of the polling, we want U.S. hegemony. We want the U.S. to be the world police in terms of what the majority of the U.S. wants. We don't want any boots on the ground, and we don't want us to cost more tax dollars. So what we're doing, seemingly now, is instead of putting our people out there, the strategy seems to be not only to rent armies, but also do drone warfare. This is where Turkey, being a massive contributor to drone warfare, they're the ones selling Israel Ukraine all the drones that they used in that massive strike the other day, where they took out like 1/3 of Russia's major strategic bombers. Like, this new warfare is renting a foreign army and providing them with technology so that we don't actually lose as much besides money. Now, Scott and Lactoid probably have more of a, what does it do for us in the long run? I don't have anything for Israel. Israel obviously is costing us money. We get very little besides intel in return. With the Trump's Gaza plan and his mineral deal in Ukraine, that's where you would see this idea cut out from the legs under it, where we would actually make back more than we would in the investment. Plus, we'd have all the IDF surrounding us from the Litani River to the south.
So hold on. Okay. And I want to go back to you in a second, but like Friend, I don't think I was making a gross mischaracterization of how conservatives look at it. And I don't think even what you said is so much different from what I was saying. But I'm going to put that aside for a second. You talked
Right, but
about
like
how
you wouldn't.
hold on, you talked hold on, you talked one second. You talked about how like, hey, like because of this malaise, hey, maybe Gaza should be a resort, right? I just want to be done with this. And I asked you,
I didn't
do
say
you,
that. I
hold on,
said
you said
that
you,
was an internal critique of conservatives. I
yeah.
didn't say I fucking support that policy.
Okay. Sorry, sure. Oh, okay. Well, then that answers the question I was going to say, right? Because if you're not saying it, you're saying conservatives are saying it. All right. Well, then it shows that the conservatives aren't concerned about the immediate loss of life, right? Like, yes, I can see there's I can understand the idea of opportunity cost. In fact, I even stated that just before, right? But just before you replied, like, yeah, I can understand opportunity costs and what that is. But that's what I'm not referring to. You know that's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about the immediate loss of life. I'm talking about like the slaughter that's happening right now. Right as we
Yeah, but,
right
but
as
you
we're
don't
speaking.
believe that. Not really.
Of course I do.
So you still believe in a cost benefit analysis on what ought to be done, right? Like let's say there was a disease. Let's say there was a disease, right? And we could cure it, but and it was a fatal disease. We could cure it, but it costs $1 trillion to cure one person with this disease.
We don't have to go through this. Like I'm saying once again, I get what a cost benefit analysis is. Like I get that. I understand that. I'm talking about within my analysis, the things that I'm concerned about politically at this moment. It's about the immediate loss of life that's happening at the hands of the IDF.
But this is why I'm saying when I say that conservatives view, rightly so, that a dollar is a human life too. Right? Is that like, you would allow people to die. I highly doubt that like you would be in favor of spending $1 trillion per person to save their life in America, because the cost benefit analysis would be too high. And you recognize that money means other people's lives are worse in some regard. That if we spent $1 trillion to save one person, and we kept doing that over and over again, that eventually our country would be so bankrupt that like far more lives would be ruined or lost because
none of this like deals with the argument that I said. I said, hey, looking at the money that we spent, right? Now we didn't spend, as far as I know. I don't know. Like I was looking at the sums previously, right? And it said like total like $300 billion that have been sent to Israel, like altogether. Like in terms of like since it's like foundation or something. So we haven't spent.
It's 1/4 of a Biden infrastructure bill.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but still, right? We haven't spent $1 trillion, right? So when I say, hey, I don't care about the money that's already been spent, like that's not my concern. That, of course, is a truthful statement. That's not my concern, right? We aren't dealing with a situation we've sent multiple trillions. So when I'm looking at only 300 billion, well, there could be a situation
that's
where
not an argument.
What do you mean it's not an argument? I'm talking about my.
It's just an argument. That's an argument. That's just an argument of scale, right? Like I use the example to showcase that you would obviously
because
allow
you keep
people to die.
Because I get what a cost benefit analysis is. I'm saying that's not the analysis that my immediate concern is these lives that are happening right now. Sure, you could say that the cost to America could be so high, right? That at some point, well, I guess I have to allow the genocide to happen because maybe it would shatter the United States.
No, that's not my argument. Hold on. That's not my argument. I'm talking about your representation of conservatives and how they don't care about people dying. And what I'm saying is that's just not true. That what conservatives
care about the
way that they view that. No, and that's just not true. Like they care.
I'm asking you. Okay. All right. Okay.
I mean, like if we go to the far right, like they care only because whatever supports against the Jews, right? But like when we're talking about your typical conservative, these people obviously value human life. They do. But when they look at a situation, they go, how can I fix this situation? And then when they don't believe funding Israel and funding aid that they believe, you can say rightly or wrongly, but we're talking about an internal critique about what they believe, that the aid just ends up in Hamas, and they look at this situation and go, we are funding two sides of a war. And so the right solution to stop death is to stop funding two sides of a war. That is the conservative mentality here. here. It's not about them being like a dead Gazan child is, only worth 1/10,000th of a U.S. veteran homeless on the streets. It's not about that. It's about them looking at loss of life. And instead of being like, oh my God, we have to do something to fix this, the conservative mindset is there's a fence in the road. Let's figure out why the fence is in the road, right? The classic, kind of like analogy,
How do
whereas
you
the
marry
Democrats
that
like,
to your
let's get
Gaza
rid of this
resort
fence in the
problem?
road.
How do you marry that to your Gaza resort problem? Scenario.
Because MAGA is a fucking populist movement, and that almost exclusively fucking targets for the most retarded amongst the population when we're dealing with populist movements.
That's fair.
And so the dumber conservatives there, half of them will follow Trump no matter what, and then the other half are looking at this situation that are supporting it and are like, maybe that in the long term will make things better because they're also sick of the death and the dying and things that, like, when I talk to conservatives about the Gaza thing, what I find really strange is, or maybe not strange, but like it kind of shocked me a little bit, is that they genuinely, the ones that were like supporting it, genuinely believe like, yeah, Trump's going to come in and he's going to fix it and it's going to be nice. And then all the people are coming back. And I was like, what about right of return? There's no argument of right of return here. And they're like, nah, you just trust the plan, man. Like, he's going to fix Gaza and there's going to be no more death and dying and bombs. And he's going to make it nice. And it's going to be so much better for them. Like, they genuinely believe that. You can think that belief is retarded, but I think you were characterizing it as like a complete lack of a value in life. And that's what I was critiquing. I only went to critiquing yours to be like, yeah, even you would agree that a certain amount of money is not in the immediacy is not worth it because the damage would be worse than the money spent. That's the only reason I went to an extreme example of $1 trillion.
Sure.
I agree. I agree generally that the characterization that conservatives don't care about life, I think that's wrong. I think conservatives care deeply about life. I do agree, though, that they probably, like the more like ultra Trump kind of populists, definitely do value probably American lives more. I would say. I think this is probably fair that like American lives are worth more to them than other people's lives. But they still
it's that
value
whole heat map meme, right? Like
the heat
valuing
map,
their community more than
exactly.
than those further out.
Right. But I still think they value life, and the rest of the analysis, I think that's more or less accurate. That for a lot of the like the MAGA people I talk to who are in favor of turning Gaza into a resort, the argument I've heard is, well, the Palestinians can move somewhere where there's no violence, and then there'll be no death, and then Gaza will just be a resort, and then they'll be somewhere else where they're going to live peacefully. Now, there's some pragmatic issues with this, or practical issues, I guess, with this policy. But assuming that it could happen, you can still have this be compatible.
Fair,
with,
Tyler is
life.
one of those people. Tyler is one of those people who
so
believes that.
Look how accurate I am. I'm able to accurately predict this opinion, and Tyler holds it. Go ahead, Tyler. Explain why I'm right.
Absolutely. Well, you're a little behind on what the actual policy is materializing into. So Trump came out with that you're accurately summarizing what he said that night. The Saudis objected the next day. Within about a week, his administration had carefully tailored out 3 of his initial announcements, which was the ethnic cleansing, and I think Israel being somewhat involved in this plan. Now it is a negotiation between 62 Arab nations, led by Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan, and the Trump administration. Trump now wants Israel completely removed from the plan, nothing to do with it at all. We will take control. Israel will just guard their borders. Yeah, guard their borders, and the Arab nations will be the ones funding most of this, other than U.S. private funding, which will go into their oil reserves that are off their shore and their beachfront property. So Trump is going to work with Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan seemingly. They've had 3 Arab-only nation meetings, and then Trump was just over there last week, and this is one of the things they brought up.
And this is insane, right? You would agree, Tyler? This is like an insane policy?
Well, I like certain things about it because if you put the U.S. in there, you then have the U.S. military in there, and then if you fuck with them, you piss off the U.S. military, and we get the real hell rain down on you. It's almost like peace through big stick.
But I understand that, but like the critical
it's almost
part
like
here
it's
like
Trump.
The mass ethnic cleansing, I guess, is the part that I got a problem with.
Well, he now is saying that they would temporarily move them. They're in negotiation talks with Lebanon right now. Not Lebanon, I'm sorry, Libya right now, to temporarily move them and then do a vetting process as they move them back in to make sure someone's not.
How long is it going to take to build Gaza?
He's saying it'll be much faster if they can just move everybody out.
Wait a minute,
dumpster
do you-
that
What is
just-
much faster? Like, give me like years.
Trump Tower was built in 2 years in the middle of New York City, baby. Come on, it's the Trump administration.
Tyler, do you think that these people will be allowed to return afterwards? Like, you personally?
Based on what they're saying now, they're not going to have Saudi Arabia's cooperation if they don't otherwise. They made that a very clear red line, and Saudi Arabia is going to be the number one funder of this. So Saudi Arabia's participation in this deal ensures it to a good degree.
No, it doesn't.
Unless we
I mean,
want to
the Saudi crown prince doesn't give a fuck about this. Like,
Palestinians.
personally, he doesn't care. Like, the Saudi people actually have a lot of buy-in into this, but Mohammed bin Salman doesn't give a fuck about the Palestinians. He's made. In fact, he was about to sign the Abraham Accords, right? Until he was pressured because of October 7th, right? It became politically untenable for him to do so. That's why the only reason he didn't sign it. He was very easily going to sell the Palestinians down the road in the first place. That helped instigate October 7th at the start of all this.
That
So,
was 5 years
and-
of Abraham Accords negotiation. There, a lot of concessions were
that
made.
has nothing to do with what I'm saying. I'm saying that Palestinians were cut out of this negotiation. And the whole point was for Israel to start normalizing relations with its neighbors, right, without dealing with the Palestinian question. It was a workaround around it, and MBS was only so happy to sign that. So MBS, his involvement in this is not Saudi involvement; it's MBS's involvement. His involvement guarantees nothing at all, right? And the thing that we have to work with is the actual history of Israel. When it temporarily moves out Palestinians, they never fucking come back ever.
Well,
They
this
don't
would
come.
be
They
the
don't
U.S.
have to come
doing
back.
it.
So,
Israel would have nothing to do with this plan.
What do you mean that Israel? Will Israel control Gaza? Or sorry, will let Israel have any say in this at all? Right? Will Israel have any political influence as to what happens in this area? We're not annexing Gaza. You're not saying it's an
That's
annexing
the
Gaza.
Trump plan would be an annexation of Gaza.
Yeah,
as
but that's not happening.
mini
But that's not
Puerto Rico.
happening unless you honestly think that is on the table. The annexing of Gaza, right? That unless you honestly think that's going to happen, and even then, right? Why would the U.S. go against its ally who doesn't Israel,
It's-
right? Who doesn't want the
20
Palestinians
minutes,
back in the
like
first
30
place?
minutes ago,
It's
we were
crazy.
having a whole debate about how much influence Israel has in the election process of our current politicians, right? So the idea that Israel will have no influence because America does it is, I mean, well, does this become a political thing where it comes down to one vote? Because
No.
Israel is definitely going to have a significant influence on what senators and congressmen get elected. They already do.
I would say that 62 Arab nation coalition has a lot more political pull. If we're talking about one government at a time, maybe, but once you add up all those nations together, that's a lot of political power.
Right. I'm just saying
yeah.
it's silly to say that Israel isn't going to have any influence here, right?
Yeah,
Obviously
yeah.
they are.
So it's
They're
not.
not gonna have it,
And
yeah.
I want to go back, and then I want to go back to this massacre, right? So our friend Tyler, he sends us a article from the Jerusalem Post, right? And what the IDF says, and the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, say is that there was no violence. There was no violence. Period. That on that day nothing happened. Nothing happened, guys, except that we have eyewitness statements from the people who were at the site. We have the doctors. We have the organization Doctors Without Borders. We have the Red Cross all saying, yeah, there was a massacre on that day. But IDF, right, says, and Tyler believes, right, when the IDF says nothing's happened, that it was without incident, I guess he buys that. I'm sorry, Tyler.
Fourth
Am I missing
paragraph
something?
Well, he'd have to.
paragraph down,
Are
it
you?
says-
We don't allow journalists into.
I'll look
we
at
don't
it
allow
again. Maybe I
journalists
missed
into
something.
Gaza.
Fourth
We don't
paragraph
allow-
down, it says they clarified. They said they were actually talking about the day is in the daytime and the conflict was at night, roughly 1 kilometer from the humanitarian aid distribution area outside the operating hours. Troops took action to prevent several suspects from approaching their position. So they did.
Yeah, so we have to trust what the IDF
Yeah,
says.
Okay, so that is shoot people.
I mean, if we go by both parties, yes, there were shots fired. One say
No, the IDF themselves shot people.
Yes, they shot at
Okay.
people. Yes.
But no, but even then, but no. Yeah, so one, they're saying they shot at people, but this is a denial. Do you understand what my criticism is of you, right? Or sorry, of this article is? they're saying the IDF source repeatedly clarified that during the night, I'll read it because I read this previously, roughly 1 kilometer from the humanitarian and distribution area and outside its operating hours, troops took action to prevent several suspects from approaching their position. Evasive fire was allegedly directed at individuals advancing toward the forces. The military stressed this incident is entirely unrelated to the false allegations of IDF fire at civilians near the aid site, according to the source. So this has nothing to do with the thing that I'm talking about, right? So like, we have eyewitness sources, the people actually shot, right? Actually hurt, saying the IDF fired on them. We have a lot of evidence pointing towards that, right? Reputable organizations, not Hamas, the Hamas wing of the government, right? Like the Hamas isn't saying this, right? The Hamas medical wing. No, instead, this is Doctors Without Borders and the Red Cross are saying, yes, it was a massacre. And you say, like, well, but the IDF said nothing happened. IDF also said they didn't bomb the hospitals when they bombed the hospitals. IDF says they
did.
We saw this by letting journalists into Gaza, right?
They have journalists in Gaza. Multiple of them took place on October 7th.
Okay, sorry. No,
Oh, come on.
They did. It's been verified. AP sources verified it.
We'll get back. We can get back to that. I want to stay focused on this. Why would you believe the IDF in this situation to say that literally nothing happened? We have a bunch of evidence to say that lots of people have been murdered there.
Well, the other sources are all citing one source, which is the Gaza Ministry of Health. So it is coming from
no. The Red Cross and Doctors Without Borders are the ones on the ground treating the patients. This doesn't have to come from the Gaza Ministry of Health. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for previously. But yeah, we don't need them. Like I even sent you a source. Like these are the people treating these individuals. Isn't it? My point is, and I'll give you space because I clearly you're trying to read stuff, right? And I want to give you space to do that.
I'm checking
but
it all out.
it just could it be the case that the IDF might have motivated reasoning in this moment when they're being accused, specifically talking about the starving Gazans, right? They'd have reasons to obfuscate a massacre, as they've done specifically. Again, I give you the example of the Flower Massacre that happened months ago, right? I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Sure, I'm saying it's completely unreasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
we're not going to. Than the other side.
So we're not going to. Well, you think that again? So the IDF, you admit they've lied before, right? Yeah, many times before.
Wartime propaganda.
But now they're more.
Before.
But they are more credible than the other side. The other side being Doctors Without Borders and the Red Cross. They're more credible.
Gaza Health Ministry.
But this is not coming from the Gaza Health Ministry.
I have to see your citation here because when I'm seeing everything, I'm looking. Which one's your? I'm looking. Everything seems to come from this first initial report from the Gaza Health Ministry.
Yeah, but there are other reports besides. I'm sure the Gaza Health Ministry has said something on this issue. But others have been corroborating this situation.
He's saying that their story being corroborated doesn't make Hamas more reliable than the IDF. He doesn't give a fuck about anything you people are saying. It's so wild. Like, why are you doing that? Sorry.
Red Cross, as our friend Doobie has put in, Red Cross says at least 21 killed and dozens shot in Gaza aid incident. The Red Cross says a mass casualty influx of people, many with gunshot or shrapnel wounds, was received at a Red Cross field hospital in southern Gaza. The organization said, Red Cross, in case you forgot, following disputed reports about an incident near an aid distribution center in Rafah. So like, and so going back to what Katie just said, right? It seems to be like, let's say that even the Gaza Ministry did make the initial report. Does that taint it, right? If the IDF says something initially, it doesn't necessarily taint it for me, right? I can just look to see, like, oh, okay, like, is it likely they're telling the truth or not? We can judge the truth claim. We can understand that both sides have motivated reasonings, obviously, right? And we can judge the truth claims associated. We know that IDF has a history of massacring people coming of aid and then lying about that. And then we have another situation right here.
Hamas was sitting a kilometer out. shooting at Gaza.
Oh, now
There's
it's
also
Hamas. Wait a minute. Now it's
Hold on.
Hamas sitting a kilometer out.
Yes, if you're talking about the IDF, we have to talk about the opposition.
The Jerusalem Post didn't say
on the
Hamas.
other side. So if they were Hamas stationed about a mile,
Oh, no. That's not.
It didn't say Hamas. It said suspects.
Even your
Jerusalem
your
Post.
evidence, right? Your source doesn't say Hamas, right? It says where incidents where we can I can bring up the exact wording here, right? An IDF source repeatedly clarified they're not roughly 1 kilometer from the humanitarian aid distribution area and outside its operating hours, troops took action to prevent several suspects from approaching that position. Evasive fire was allegedly directed at individuals advancing toward the forces. The military who the fuck were they, right? The military stressed that the incident is entirely related to the false allegation of IDF fire at civilians near the aid site. So your source doesn't
And keep
even
in
say
mind,
Hamas.
they're not mentioning these people were armed or in any way indicated they were
And
like
then
a
you threw in
military, like,
Hamas.
threat.
You baked in Hamas to like kind of narrativize it, right? To be like, well, look, Hamas is a kilometer away. Of course, they were doing massacres.
They're fighting against. Yeah, if they're shut down, they're not operational anymore, and people are approaching them in the night. Then yes,
But they're
That's
suspects and
reason to
not
believe
Hamas,
that
so they
they're
don't know that they're Hamas. They're just
They don't-
suspects. It could be
yeah, they
anyone
don't know
walking in the
they're-
night.
okay.
Here's another group
Well,
of
I mean,
people.
Why do you just dismiss that? Okay, like why do you
That's
just
a
is someone
war
walking in the
zone.
night? Oh,
That's
hold
a
on.
war zone.
Civilians
yes.
just walking through the night and they just get shot
In
at
the
by people
desert.
that.
walking up to
What do
a
you mean?
standing army. Yes,
The desert.
yes.
How the
that
hold on? You're like ridiculous, right? So like you
Ashley
you
Babbitt
understand
did
like
the
the
same
the
fucking
IDF
thing.
the IDF sets up like kill zones, right?
Even the
and
IDF
kill,
didn't say Hamas.
what the kill zone is as far as the soldiers can see. Is if you walk through the line of sight of a soldier, they can kill you. Like so, come on! Like, there's nothing in that sentence that this in the source that you posted that
Links
even indicates
multiple.
that they had any reason to believe these people were armed or dangerous in any way. They could have
Okay.
been totally and in fact, in many cases, they are totally unarmed civilians that are shot and then later labeled terrorists.
Okay, it's a war zone.
Oh, it's a war zone.
Okay,
Hey,
what?
Yes.
here's another example.
They're
Here's-
shut
no,
why
down.
do you,
They're
like-
not handing out aid anymore. Somebody's
No,
approaching them.
let
in
me
the
give
dark
you one
and
more
you're assuming, like,
example.
oh, there's someone moving. Fire.
Let me
You
give you
don't-
one more.
you're
Hold
just
on. Let me get.
pretending. It's
I have
not
another
cartoonish.
example. I have another
But this is
example.
also obfuscating from the point of
wait a
like the
second.
massacre
Just
at
I've got,
Rock.
another,
Rockledge.
That they're
I've got
not
another
following the rules
example
of
for
war
you,
with no proof.
Tyler. I have another example for you. Right? It just happened like 2 months ago, maybe. Right? There was another incident of suspects approaching IDF forces. That was a convoy of ambulances that was going to, I think, give aid to some other incident that was happening. Another
Well,
bomb.
Hamas could be in the ambulances.
Yeah,
You know?
they set up a kill zone, as our friend Doobie said, and they slaughtered the ambulance workers. They murdered them all, and then they buried their bodies, right? And their cars. And the cars, yeah, and the ambulances. They buried them all. And then I think, if I'm remembering the story correctly, I might be wrong on this point, but like then they denied that any of this happened. I think we recovered a phone from one of the victims that filmed it all, if I'm remembering the story correctly.
Hold on. So Supreme, the story was that the IDF claimed initially that they approached with their lights off and they're driving suspiciously or something. Now, in the video, they very obviously have the lights on. They're unarmed, like very obviously ambulance workers, and yeah, they're ambushed.
I'm gonna have to see a link for that because I'm looking at the previous.
You haven't seen that? Hold on, you haven't seen that? You haven't seen that story at all?
The link I posted a little bit ago. It's from CBN. Hamas said that they fired at people approaching them 1.5 miles away. All were warning shots, and nobody was hit in that nighttime incursion. Is what they're stating.
Wait, hold on. To be clear, you haven't seen the story of the ambulance workers being shot at all?
No, I don't pay
What?
attention to the things where that goes on now.
That was a big story, even within like the
He doesn't
pro-Israel
really pay
sphere, because
attention to,
Israel's
like,
like,
the whole
News
Israel
every day,
Palestine.
dude. I follow.
Oh.
I've never seen that. I read. I
Okay.
New York Times subscription, Wall Street Journal subscription, 10 podcasts a day. I've never heard that.
Well, okay.
that's
If you,
insane.
if you haven't heard it, you haven't heard it. So I'm not gonna like. If you haven't heard it, it is what it is.
I haven't heard about it. I haven't heard
What
about
we
it
have
either.
here
Oh,
is the
you're not gonna
Gaza
follow me,
Ministry
so I'm
of
not
Health.
surprised.
RT didn't bring it up, so I didn't.
Hold on. What we have here is the Gaza Ministry of Health saying this versus the IDF saying this. The Gaza Ministry of Health has released death numbers in Gaza that are extremely inflated. Multiple of them have been
here we
proven
go.
wrong, including 500 people that were hit in a hotel rocket from toward the beginning of the war. We found out that was actually an IJF rocket that went off in the wrong direction and nobody died.
That's not true.
In a parking lot. Yes, it is. It was verified. So
No, it's
we
not
have
true.
all these situations where extra people are on the inflated numbers. If you look at credibility, you can easily see
You keep
Israel
saying
is at least-
credibility, right? But we
Yes.
keep giving you examples of the IDF lying,
Okay.
right? And then you keep admitting that the IDF's lies, and then you keep saying, well, they're the most credible here, right?
No,
That-
I just countered your point about the fucking the 1.5 miles out. They said they shot nobody.
no, you didn't counter it.
And
Hold on,
it's
you
coming
didn't.
from
You
the
didn't. No,
Hamas.
you didn't. Hold on.
It's
Let's
two
go back.
sides making
You know,
claims
you didn't
that are not
counter anything.
verified.
Hold on. First of all, you got your own source wrong. You literally the
I
source
have
that you
multiple
the
sources. I
source
think
that
it's a
you
different
provided
one.
me, the source that
This
you
is out
provided
there
me
as well.
didn't say
It's a different-
Hamas, right? So now if you're gonna
CBN.
provide me something else, okay, we can take a look
CBN
at
source,
that.
no,
but
it
the
was
source
up there,
that you
it was
said
right under
that
it, dude.
the source that you provided me did not even say that. I
did.
read your source
Just
back
read
at you and didn't
one
even say that.
source, read the second
Okay,
one right underneath
great.
it.
So,
Right
and in
underneath
any
it.
case, right, like that doesn't actually deal with the incident that I'm talking about. You're saying, okay, the IDF describes a separate incident that actually might have happened, right? I'm not even disputing the second incident because it has nothing to do with what I'm fucking talking about. You're saying that there's two locations. There's the GHF, right? And then there's a mile and a half out, right? Something happens. Okay, sure. Something happens a mile and a half out. But the IDF is saying that nothing happened at the GHF, right? And
No.
they have provided no evidence to show, to dispute the slaughter.
No. So what they're saying is they didn't shoot anybody in the first instance. It was Gaza
said there was
being
a
shot by Hamas.
No,
At the
no,
first
that's not what they said. Not in your source.
Yes.
Your source
No,
didn't say that.
The
my
one
God, we can
source
look at
you
your
read was
source.
not about that. It was about the second. The second event was a mile and a half out after they were already
dude.
closed
I
down.
don't- I don't know what your
Israel
reading
is saying
comprehension's going
they
on.
fired warning shot. I'm looking at it. You only read one source. I linked 5, dude. CBS
you-
source right underneath the one in front of
sorry,
you.
I'm
The
sorry. I
one right
looked at
underneath
your
it.
source and I make conclusions about
Yeah, you're
your
looking at
source, right?
one. I'm talking about
and
a
then that
second
you,
one.
And then you specifically like directed me back at that source to saying, "Oh, you were wrong about something, right?" And then I read it out and I said, "I wasn't wrong about that." And then now you want to
the
put something
second
else on.
source.
But
The
we can
CBS
deal
source,
with
I said
this.
this 9 times now. I gave you 5 sources. You're looking at one and saying it's not in it.
So it said without
Search for
so
1.5.
following the incident, the GHF denies claims of casualties and injuries at the distribution sites. All aid was distributed today without incident. No injuries or fatalities. We have heard that these false reports have been actively fomented by Hamas. They are untrue and fabricated. Okay, so that's the incident that I'm talking about, right?
That's the
Are
old
you saying,
source
hold on, Bill, don't worry, we're going to interrogate your other sources. We'll do that, right? But what you're going to tell me is that your other sources that are going to prove your point are going to contradict this source, the Jerusalem Post, right? Where the GHF is, hold on, the GHF is saying that on that day, nothing happened. They're not saying that Hamas came in and shot the aid of seekers, right? They're not saying Hamas shot the Gazans, right? They're saying nothing happened. That it was delivered without incident. So is that what your other source? So I'm going to ask you. So I'm going to ask you. I'm just going to make sure you know what I'm asking you, right? So you're going to respond to that, and then I'll listen to what you have to say, right?
Okay.
So what you're going to say, so what you are going to tell me is that your other source contradicts this statement from the GHF. Go ahead.
No, I'm not going to say that. There's two incidents being discussed here. There was one while the aid convoy was active. Israel's saying they fired no shots in that and had nothing to do with it. The second was after they were already shut down. This is the one that they're talking about in both sources.
My friend. I don't give a fuck about that. That's not what I'm referring to. You're saying that there's another incident. Hold on. That other incident might have happened. I'm not disputing that incident. Maybe the IDF is truthful about that. I'm not disputing that incident. So I'm talking about like incident B. I'm talking about incident A.
I'm telling you why you're conflating. I'm
not conflating either of these. I'm separating them.
Yes, you are. They say in both sources. Yes, I'm trying to explain that to you.
Go ahead. Please.
So they say in both sources there was 2 news stories created. One was about the rush to the food convoy.
Okay.
It turned out after investigation that was Hamas and militant groups inside the country shooting at Gazans. The second, that's the one that Israel saying did not happen at the actual site. They had nothing to do with that. That was fake news. The second was after they were closed down. They saw people approaching 1.5 miles away. They fired warning shots, and nobody was hit, according to Israel. According to the Gazan health industry, 32 people were killed.
Hold on. Okay. All right. So I'm Doobie. Doobie, have you read this? Did you take time
Yeah.
to read the Jerusalem Post? Right? Am I losing my mind here? Because maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm not listening properly. Because it sounds like, again, maybe I'm wrong, and so then I'll take back my words. But I'm looking at this report, and it's talking about how they gave aid to civilians during the day, right? Not a mile and a half out, not after they were shut down. During the day, they gave out the aid without incident. Is that what you're reading?
Yeah.
Okay. So then that's the incident that we're talking about, right? Are we on the same point? Great.
Wait. Tyler's saying that there was no incident from the IDF, right? He's saying
He's saying no incidents at all.
No, yeah,
Like,
at all.
No.
Like,
I know, but Tyler's interpretation of it, because he's read the other one. I'm telling you, because I'm watching him do it. He's saying that the interpretation is that without incident means from the IDF, and that the claim is that there was an incident, but the incident is Hamas, so they are not linked to the incident. That's what his claim is. Like, and that's how the way he read it.
Nor was it at the IDF food drop. It was a couple miles away at the Hamas barricade, much earlier in the day.
There you go. So he's saying there wasn't an incident at the food drop. There wasn't, and even if there was an incident, it wasn't from the IDF. There we go.
I know that's what he's been saying. I don't know what this is a clarification of. You've been saying that
happened later in the night.
Forget the second incident.
Yeah, no one gives a fuck about the second incident. So please stop bringing that up. It's literally
hold on. To be clear, so Tyler, hold on, but clarity. No, that's not true, Tyler. The issue. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just saying, like, guys, we're losing clarity because we're getting mad arguing about this, right? Like, slow it down a bit, Doobie. That's all I was trying to say.
So
it's like we're like our ability to communicate is like because we're in the details of like different incidents and claims, and then we're yelling about it, and then everybody's like confusing what the other person's claim is.
No one's
just to be clear. Forget the second incident. No one cares about the second incident. It didn't happen.
But that's the incident that Prime is talking about.
I'm not talking about the second incident. No, I'm not. I can tell, like, this is why you're not listening, Tyler. I'm not talking about the second incident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prime.
What the fuck? Hold on.
Please finish.
No. Sorry. Doobie, you go. Like, what the fuck?
So Tyler, I think I agree with Ali. You should forget about the second incident, right? Because it's not relevant at all. Right. The issue is that the IDF is claiming that they gave out the aid with no incidents at all from anybody. They don't report, oh yeah, we're giving out the aid and then Hamas attacked. They say no incidents. They gave the aid with no incident. The issue is that the Red Cross and other like aid groups are reporting that after that aid distribution, they had an influx of killed and injured people who claimed that at that distribution they were shot at by the IDF. Right, so these injured people came from somewhere, right? The IDF said that this happened with no incident at all. These people are saying that there was an incident and they were shot. So somewhere like between like
somebody's lying.
Yeah, somebody's lying. Like obviously, right? And it seems like I doubt these people shot themselves and they all agreed to lie about it and say the IDF did it. Like I doubt that happened. They're saying that it happened at the distribution site. So
and he's saying Hamas did it and is blaming it on the IDF.
No.
Yeah, but the IDF is saying there are no incidents at all.
That's where the confusion is I watch the news cycles around this, so I think I'm leaving out timeline parts here. This didn't happen after the distribution site. This happened the next morning based on the event that happened at nighttime. If you read the article, it was released Sunday morning that this happened over the evening, and that's what they released the security footage video of, showing they actually just fired warning shots.
My friend.
No, you're confusing yourself with the night incident. No, the night incident is totally irrelevant to anything.
It's
like nobody's claiming. No, nobody's claiming that the night incident is where over 100 people were shot. Nobody's claiming.
Yes, they are. That's exactly what the guys.
Okay, but not right now. Yes. Hold on, Tyler. Okay, I told Prime Guys to calm down. Tyler. I told Prime Guys to calm down because it's not getting it. You're doing the same thing fucking right now. Okay, focus on the first incident. Let's ignore the noise on the second incident and the reports on the second incident and focus on the first incident.
He's saying the second incident is the first incident, and we're confusing the first incident. And so he's saying the first incident didn't happen. The second incident is the incident that everyone's talking about. That's what he's saying. He's saying the first incident, like no one got shot at the food aid. Everyone, like all the shots happened at night, and that's what the reporting that he found is showing, that none of the shots happened during the food aid. All of the shots happened at night, and the reason the shots happened at night is because they shot the warning shots at the 3 people that they suspected walking. Yeah, there was no shot at the food aid is his claim, right? That
Yeah,
there wasn't
I
an
understand.
incident.
Yeah, I understand that it's what he's saying, but the issue is for that to be true, these people who showed up shot, I think almost 200 of them. Are they all lying? Like, are they all lying about being shot at this aid distribution site? Like, I don't understand like what the implicate, like why would they do that? Why would all of these people lie about being shot at the site?
I'm looking at the quotes. It says there was firing from all directions, from naval warships, tanks, and drones. Not that Israel shot us.
Okay. Does Hamas have
They were
naval
shooting at
tanks and
them. They're
drones?
admitting.
Wait, tanks
Does
and
Hamas
drones
have
are
tanks
coming
and
from
drones?
who?
They have
IDF is admitting
drones.
it's shooting at them. They said they were warning shots and they hit nobody. Then they released footage showing they hit nobody. So
They did
yeah,
warning
Where
shots
the
at
fuck do these
night.
people get shot?
I think the people that are being paid by Iran to lie to the
Oh,
media,
stop.
calling a martyr fund, are the ones that
Stop,
are
please
incentivized to
stop.
lie.
Don't do that.
You
Don't
guys
do that to
called
yourself.
Israel's
That's so
credibility into
stupid.
question, and you're not looking at the paid propagandists on the other side.
You think they're
Hollywood,
paid
right?
propagandists for Israel? Like, what are you
Yes,
talking about?
not
Like, what would-
Israel for Hamas.
don't be stupid, please.
Iran is
Hold on.
paid.
Don't. You don't need to go. You don't need to go that far. You don't need to go that far.
No,
You really
no,
no.
no, no.
You don't need to go that far to say these people allow themselves to be killed and their family members and their children be killed.
They're lying.
Like,
I'm saying they're
slander.
lying.
You're saying the Red Cross is
Wait,
lying.
can I
You're saying
ask
the
one
Red
question?
Cross itself is lying about
The
this.
Red Cross is quoting them. They're not making.
No,
actual
you
affirmation.
know, this is why I
Yeah.
posted the BBC story. The Red Cross says that they received an influx of injured people and killed people at their site.
And how? Where did they get that information from? They
Themselves,
quoted
it's
people-
their
wait,
site.
wait,
It's
no,
their
the injured
their
people
field
are not.
hospital.
They quoted the people that said they were being shot. So they
No, listen, no,
They
stop.
were
No,
shot.
listen. You're not listening. You're not listening.
Do you
This
have
is
a
the
source
issue.
that they weren't
Can you
paid
just
by
read?
Iran?
Can you just read for me? Okay, so I put it in the chat. So a mass casualty influx of people, many with gunshot or shrapnel wounds, was received at the Red Cross Field Hospital in southern Gaza. This is the Red Cross saying that they received people with gunshot and shrapnel wounds at their hospital.
Okay.
That's not. They're not getting this from Hamas
Where
or
are the
from
gunshots
Iran.
and shrapnel
This
wounds
is the
coming
Red
from,
Cross
Tyler?
themselves saying that they received people with these wounds at their hospital.
Okay. Now,
Okay,
how did they
so,
link
like-
that to Israel?
Because these people are claiming that the IDF shot them.
That's my point.
So you think
So
all
they're
these people are
that
lying?
Whole 2 minutes
Yes.
there.
So
Yes.
you
I'm
think-
saying that
Yeah.
one side's
come
providing
on. Like,
video,
why would you?
So okay, hold on. So let's break down.
disregarding video evidence.
Tyler,
and taking
Tyler, no
other-
problem. Tyler,
You
we're
know how
gonna break.
delusional that sounds
Tyler,
like.
we're gonna break down your conspiracy here, right?
Damn,
Don't
dude.
worry, we're gonna break it down. Okay, so we have people. No, don't worry, Tyler. We'll break it down. So we have people presenting to the Red Cross with injuries, right? With gunshot over 100, right? And then 32 dead bodies, right? So now these people are lying, right?
It's up to
Now either
51
they.
right now,
Sorry, what'd you say?
I mean, not the dead bodies.
51 right now. 51 dead bodies now.
51 dead bodies. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, but of course it's going to increase, right? Well, they'll have died afterwards because a lot of people who had shot are going to make it to the Red Cross and die afterwards. Now, these people, as they're dying in bed, they're bleeding out, right? They stick to this line that at this AIDS center, they were going because, remember, they were starving, right? Rather than getting the aid, right? They staged an incident where they're going to get shot, right? Or they have, or maybe they're not shot.
Or
So
Hamas just shoots them and they cover for Hamas.
the
you know?
Hamas just shoots them. They cover
they're
Hamas.
anti-Semitic.
They love Hamas so much, right?
Or they were lied to by Hamas that it was IDF that shot them when in reality it was Hamas.
It was at
With
yes,
the tanks, right?
maybe they didn't know who shot them, right? They confused the Israelis for the
They're just
idea.
anti-Semitic.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
just anti-Semitic.
So
How does this
so
explain
and
the
then
video?
that happens in war all the
or
time.
the Red
honestly.
Cross
Anti-Semitism?
or the Red Cross is in on it, right? Maybe there aren't people who've been presenting, right? Because just like the Gaza Health Ministry lies, maybe the Red Cross is lying. Maybe Doctors Without Borders is also lying, right? And that they haven't actually presented with these shots, right? People have come in, they've said a story, right?
Maybe the
And
buildings
that's
in
good
Gaza are
enough, and
still
we'll
standing.
go with
Who
that.
knows?
So,
No one's
yeah.
been there.
So yeah, no one's been there. So like Tyler, right? I want you to break it down for me, right? Like exactly like what you think. You weren't there, right? You weren't there, but like what you think this conspiracy to lie to the world, what it looks like here,
I already did.
from the perspective of an individual Gazan. Okay,
I already
break it down for us, please.
Absolutely. Well, it's
Yeah.
disregarding the fact that one side provided video evidence and the other side's people saying things to the World Health Organization or whomever, Doctors Without Borders, whatever group. It's one person's claims versus a video. So
A video of what though?
a video of the shooting event where they shot bullets and rounds at the people approaching.
Could
At
it be?
night.
Could it be?
Hmm?
Could it be? Hold on. Oh my god, Tyler. At night. That's
Okay.
not the incident that people are talking about.
Yes,
the
that's the
incident
one that they're
happened
talking about.
In
That's
the-
what
in-
Israel
but
is saying.
yes. Hold on.
What is-
But friend,
This
it
is what
happened.
Gaza's
It
saying.
happened 6 a.m. 6 a.m. in the morning. That's when it happened. That's
Sunday
when.
morning. Yeah, it was when it
So,
was reported.
hold on, no. But you're saying it happened at night. You're saying we get that the
not really
IDF
the
presented a
nighttime.
nighttime.
Yeah.
Hold on. Think about this, Tyler. I want you to think about it. You're saying that the IDF provided a video of a nighttime incident, right?
Yes.
That's not at the center, and you're saying, well, that's evidence that at the center there was no gunshots. Did they provide the video of the center, right, and no fire happening at the center?
Not to the best of my knowledge, but I can
No,
look.
okay, so they didn't provide evidence. They provided evidence for the second incident, which you, for some fucking reason, are stuck with this
Okay.
entire time. Tyler.
So you have any evidence that they
to
did
be
it?
clear, I have doctors on
just
bullets.
like
I have
over
web
200
calls.
people
I have
shot,
all the
everyone
testimony
dead.
of all the people who got
Funny.
shot. That's what I have, Tyler.
So one side's
hold on,
automatically liars,
Tyler,
one
I want to
side's
tell you,
automatically telling the truth. I got it.
Tyler. I want to say something nice about you, right? Since you've been here, you haven't been here as long as the others, right, Tyler? You haven't been long as the others, but I've come to respect you, right? You and I often disagree, but that's okay. Like Lactoid disagrees with me all the goddamn time, right? Scott disagrees with me all the goddamn time. Doobie is sometimes wrong, right? And then he disagrees with me, but I correct him.
Fuck you.
Right? But I
Sometimes.
respect every single person on this screen. And all of them have disagreed with me at some point in time, right? I respect you too, Tyler. I do. I wanted to make that very clear, right? And I think you have an analytical mind. I think you try your best to apply that to every situation, right? You try to take a fresh new set of eyes to everything, right? Tyler, we've been talking about this for a fucking hour now. Tyler, we've been talking about one incident, not two incidences, right? You keep bringing up the second one, and I keep telling you, forget that fucking thing. So you tell me, you give me a statement saying the IDF has provided evidence that says incident 1 happening in the morning didn't happen. Right? That's what you said. And then I said, let's talk about this. And then you're saying, oh yeah, that happened at night, right? This was the second incident. You're bringing up the second incident again. We're talking about the first
No, I
incident.
didn't say incident 1 didn't happen. I said incident 1 didn't happen at the actual drop site. It was a gun conflict started by Hamas miles out. It had nothing to do with the IDF. So incident 1 did happen. People were shot. They were shot by Hamas.
Okay, all right. So
What's
all
your
right.
response to that, Prime? Go ahead.
We've already just got this like 25 minutes ago,
okay.
man.
Well,
you're
I know. But even sorry,
That's a good point.
But hold on. But lactoid, friend. I love you, friend. And I know what you're doing.
I am so fucking lost right now.
I know.
I am so fucking lost right now.
I know you are. But lactoid. Did you read his? Did you read his source?
No.
You should.
Okay, can I?
It would help. Hold on one second. One
interject
second. And I'll give you that time, right? To be clear, right, for the audience, and I'll put it in the chat so the audience can follow along what's happening, right? You guys can read it yourself, and you can decide which one of us is lacking in reading comprehension. Because the Jerusalem Post article that he gave, right, was when the IDF and GHF said there was no incident. Hamas didn't fire on these people.
Yes.
So,
At the food aid.
but then you
I
just
also
said that he
linked a
did.
second source with more information and that you refuse to
Hold on,
open.
but I'm looking. Hold on, I'm looking at this.
In
So
the chat, I linked it.
The CMB source.
sorry. So could I was
Okay.
looking at. I was the CM. I was looking at this source. Oh, no, maybe I was looking at something else. No, I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna read this other source, right? And if it, well,
Go ahead, Scott.
I'll save my scoring for later. I'm gonna save my scoring for later. All right, go ahead.
What
I'm
up,
telling you,
Scott?
man, this is seems like something we should have easily cleared up. It's just a quick misunderstanding. There were two
I
shootings.
don't
No,
think
you
it
guys
is.
are talking
No, I
right
don't
past
think it
each other.
is.
I hear what you're
Hold on.
saying.
No,
I'm
you
saying what
don't.
you're stating.
No, you
Hold on,
don't.
reading two
So
things.
please stop.
I gotcha.
So Doobie provided a source, and I was like, okay, let me just read the whole source and the full context of just this one incident and this one source, right? The source you gave was the BBC article, Doobie. Now, in reading the BBC article, they describe the witness testimony that they're relying on is 2 wounded people. So 2 people said that that Israelis had fired on them. So that's one piece of evidence for the narrative that Israel did this. Then there was a what is it? Medicine Sans Frontier, MSF, said in a statement that it also responded to the mass casualty, right? And Red Cross described the mass casualty, but they did not. MSF, or Claire Monera, the organization's emergency co-coordinator, said, shown once again that this new system of aid delivery is dehumanizing, dangerous, and severely ineffective, right? So a representative from MSF is claiming that this is bad. But the evidence that is presented is that a mass casualty event occurred. Then there is a reporter on the ground that is a pro, like it's not BBC. It's not, because Israel doesn't let those people in. So this is local reporters in Gaza that are making the claim that Israel fired upon people, that there was tank shells, etc. Now, I read through it. Maybe I missed it. I didn't see any evidence of of wounds reported by the Red Cross that said that it had to be tanks, that wasn't what was described. So we have 2 witnesses, we have a local reporter, and we have MSF. Red Cross is just saying a mass casualty event occurred. Now, the IDF claims that this did not occur at their site, and that between 4 and 6 in the morning, that in another location that was farther off, that they had drone footage at 4 a.m. of masked individuals firing into a crowd of people that were attempting to reach the GSF aid, right? So they were on their way to go get aid, but they weren't at the aid place. They were in a gray area, etc., on their way to get aid, and that they had drone footage that they released of masked individuals firing into the crowd. Now, who knows? Maybe that is fucking Israel and they're pretending, right? And they put IDF like special forces in masks so that they could like murder a bunch of people and create a humanitarian crisis and a really bad PR for them. Probably not true, right? So we know that at least some people at another site from drone footage were fired upon by people that could be IDF, doing a secret mission to kill Gazans for whatever reason. That doesn't make a lot of sense, etc. And we have some witness testimony that is stating that they were attacked by Israel. Now, how you want to deal with that, at least from the source, deal with that, right? Like the fog of war is very confusing. Israel doesn't allow journalists in, which is a big fucking problem, right? But I feel like war correspondents ought to be fucking allowed. But there is like the local reporting is almost certainly pro Hamas and probably full of shit and propaganda because we see it all the fucking time. But there are witnesses, presumably, that say that IDF fired on them. But it's not like it's 100 witnesses that are all collectively lying. What we have, at least from the reports and the source that you gave me, because again, I didn't want to use any other outside sources other than just you gave me the source, Doobie. Let me look at it.
Yeah.
It's 2 people, an MSF emergency co-coordinator, and a local journalist versus the IDF's drone footage that shows it could be drone footage of an entirely different incident, and it's a lie, right? And
well, so I did look at the drone footage.
Something that happened earlier, right? You know what I mean? Or in a different place that doesn't involve this mass casualty. I'm just trying to clarify because we've been yelling and shit. Like, look at one source. What is the evidence?
So I did look at the drone footage, and it does show like these mass men shooting. But at least the footage that I saw, I see like one guy fires at the ground, another guy's like tossing dirt and like rocks or whatever. But I don't, they're not like firing into the crowd, right? I mean, they're firing at the ground.
Yeah,
they do look like warning shots, right?
I don't watch any of these videos on stream, even if it's on a separate monitor, because I might accidentally show and then get like TOS banned. So I'm just not going to look at like war footage unless I'm offline, or not offline, but off.
So in that the journalist said his name is Mohammed Gharib, right? He's a journalist in Rafah. And you can say he likely has some bias, like toward the Palestinians, right? Because I'm sure maybe he is a Palestinian, right? So he is one of the people claiming that when they gather near the aid center, and this is in the BBC story that I put, that the Israeli tanks approach and open fire on the crowd, right? So that's his story. The American Red Cross, I don't know if they've provided like evidence of this, but they're claiming that they have people with a gunshot and shrapnel wounds.
Yes, they claim, but they didn't claim who did it or reports of who was doing it. They're not saying Israel did this. They're saying we have a mass casualty event. They have gunshot and shrapnel wounds, and this is where the mass casualty event occurred.
And we have
so I would say without a doubt, it's undeniable that there was a mass casualty event. Without a doubt, we should all be able to agree to that it occurred at least in the area, right? Israel's claim is that, well, we've got some evidence that it occurred at another location, which seems dubious, but at least it is a video. And then we have biased journalists there, which, again, it's Israel's own fucking fault that if you're not letting in other journalists and war correspondents, of course you're getting, of course you're only getting pro-Hamas or pro-Palestinian news coming out of the region. They're creating the very fog of war, which is fucking dubious as far as I'm concerned. But regardless, we have Mohammed Gharib. And then again, the other person, like I said, the MSF, it's a French, relief aid organization. They're reporting, at least from Clara Monera, the organization's emergency co-coordinator, quote, shown once again that this new system of aid is dehumanizing, dangerous, and severely ineffective. Whether or not that's like a gray area, like politically safe quote. She's not saying I'm proving Israel did this. What she's saying is that having people march to these locations and what is like, this could go for Hamas or for IDF, etc. But basically saying that the way that this is being done, like it's a very safe statement. So I don't know how helpful it is, but also, maybe people that are working in the region are very careful to say safe statements so they don't get fucking, in trouble when they're in a fucking war zone.
So respond to that in a second, Doobie. Okay, Tyler. Tyler, you there, buddy?
You lactoid.
Yep. I heard Scott's entire breakdown.
Okay.
I agree with every word of it.
Tyler. You told me, hey, I gotta look at the CBN article, right? The thing is, you'd put you put two Jerusalem Post articles, and I clicked on the other one. And I was like, this doesn't have anything to do with anything. So that was my fault before, right? Because I did read another source from you, but it wasn't the CBN article. Okay. So I took the time to read the CBN article. Okay, Tyler. Your claim is that the CBN article says that Hamas fired on these civilians at some point in time, correct? Right? That's what you said like 10 minutes ago, right?
No, I believe what I was saying was that the reporting came from Hamas, which was the Gaza Health Ministry initially.
No, you talked about Hamas firing on them. You did. I didn't make this up. You talked about Hamas firing on civilians.
I think that was the 4 a.m. incursion Scott was talking about.
That's you said that I need to look. You said Prime. So we'll see the misunderstanding is that you need to look at the CBN article. The CBN article shows.
The misunderstanding was that there were two events that were going on.
Okay, but you've said, hold on. You've been telling me that Hamas has fired on these people, right? That Hamas was the ones who fired on them, correct? So I'm still looking for that fucking evidence because I didn't say it in the CBN article. So what
the drone footage was about at 4 a.m. one more time?
Sorry, hold on. Was it in the CBN article that Hamas fired on these? Now you keep saying there's another source that says what I'm saying, right?
Scott looked over the source. I'd like to trust
I'm not talking about stop trying to obfuscate, okay? Talk like a fucking man to me. Now hold on. Tyler, you said Hamas shot at these people. You said Hamas shot at these people, right? And I'm still looking for that fucking evidence. You're like, Prime, we haven't looked at my second source. I looked at your second source, right? I said I was going to do it. Now, like, where is it that Hamas faked this?
Scott, as a neutral arbiter, when you were reading that citation, what did you say that 4 a.m. drone footage was?
So hold on. So what I would say is it sounds like you read a bunch of articles and you got your fucking articles confused.
Maybe.
Because Prime is saying, I just read through the article that you told me to read and it doesn't say what it
the only time I remember.
I just looked at the one that Doobie posted and that is referencing the footage. But as I said, I didn't watch the specific footage. I'm assuming the reporting from the BBC that is at least accurate in what the fucking video shows, which is masked individuals throwing rocks and shooting at people that are attempting to get aid somewhere. But there's no proof that that is where it is or time, etc. At least not stated in the BBC article. But there is presumably video evidence from drones at roughly 4 a.m., which would be at night, early morning, of masked individuals, not necessarily Hamas, but likely Hamas, right? But not necessarily Hamas, shooting at individuals and throwing rocks at them. Now, I didn't look at your CBN article, so it's entirely likely that Prime Kai's did, and you got the wrong fucking article, or you got them confused. You dropped like 5 of them, and I know you've been debating this, but you're probably wrong that was the one. But of the one that I read live, because people were yelling about it, that is the claim.
I think I was looking at the CBN article for something different personally, because what I was looking for was the Sunday event situation, what the Hamas Ministry of Justice was reporting on. And that's where I found in this article that Hamas were the initial. Remember it personally. I don't think I said from this specific article that Hamas was firing people. But, I mean, it could just be a misremembrance. If I fucked up my citation, sorry, but there's another one that backs that up too.
I'm not going to... Okay. If you're saying you made a mistake...
If I did, my bad.
Okay, all right. You know what? Everyone makes mistakes. I surely have, very rarely. But everyone makes mistakes. I'm just going to move past that. All right. So,
I just wanted him to be the neutral.
Just so we're all clear, Hamas did the killing, right? Is that what we're
yeah,
what it looks like from the drone footage?
So Tyler,
no, don't be an idiot. That drone footage. Hold on. So if Israel had drone footage of Hamas slaughtering dozens of people, shooting hundreds of people, because I think it's like almost 200 people that were shot, right? That appear with some kind of an injury, right? So the IDF had footage of that. Why the fuck would they take the drone's camera away from it? Why wouldn't they release it and say, hey, here's what actually happened? What they actually have released is what I've seen is like 3 or 4 little clips of somebody shooting at the ground, a dude tossing some rocks. They don't have video, or they haven't released video of these groups just mass firing at the crowds, which is what they're claiming. So if they saw this happening, why the fuck would they turn the camera away? I don't think it exists. I don't think you have any reason to believe it exists. They would have released it by now.
I mean, if you can show me some evidence to the contrary that their video is bullshit, I'll believe it. But I just kind of...
I'm not saying the video is bullshit. I'm not saying the video is bullshit.
Hold on. The video might not be bullshit, but the evidence, presumably, and again, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about fucking Israel fatigue and this back and forth. And
that's a good point you made about that.
But
their fault.
But like there are at least 2 witnesses claiming that's what happened, and there's local reporting claiming what that's happened. Now, I'm totally willing to believe that those 2 random people and this local reporter are full of shit. I'm also willing to believe that Israel doesn't have any real fucking evidence of what happened. They're just claiming that it didn't, right? It's crazy that here in the United States, we had to fight, and it's one of the few things that I thought was good about the initial movements of Black Lives Matter, where cops had to wear body cams, and for whatever fucking reason we don't have full length footage of like IDF soldiers protecting a humanitarian event. Like if there's going to be any fucking takeaway from this, because, let it first be fuck Israel, dissolve the nation states. Let it second be, because that's not going to happen, let us stop funding this shit. But if it's going to be a tertiary, fucking pragmatistic thing, maybe if you're going to do fucking humanitarian aid and you're going to have the IDF guarding it, can we get one camera? Can we just get one camera that watches the shit go down the whole day?
But in the CBN article... The CBN article that I read, right? In the next paragraph, when it talks about, after it talks about Hamas lying, it says that they did release some sort of security footage, right? At the time of the incident, they say, that proves otherwise. So I like to see the security footage. I like to see actually what time it was, right? Because they can release security footage of the distribution site, but is it the actual massacre? And once again, we've been through this before. I'm sorry, we've been through this exact situation, right? Like, if you've been following this, Katie, I'm sure. Katie, have you heard the Flower Massacre previously? Right? Sorry, we didn't hear what you had to say.
You're muted, I believe.
Yeah, you did. Okay, Katie's heard the Flower Massacre. Doobie, you heard the Flower Massacre, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. There was a flower massacre that happened where people were going to get flour, among other things. And there was I had drone footage. I think it was probably drone footage of the incident. And the IDF released footage to say that, oh, we were, I think the story was, and I might be wrong about this, but I think their story is that, well, we were defending ourselves, right? And we had to do it, right? And then the New York Times did an analysis and said that was full of shit. They broke that down. That was full of shit. So you're telling me that the IDF simply has released footage saying, well, there's nothing happening here. Nothing happened here, right? Did they release the full footage of like from beginning, from when the 8 distribution nodes are open?
They released 25 seconds.
It's 25
in different
seconds.
clips. In different clips of different areas.
25 seconds in different clips in an area. Okay, friend, Tyler. Could it be that outside it says like 4 different clips? Okay, so let's say there's like a minute and a half of footage there. Tyler, could it be that like of that minute and a half of that day, that maybe the massacre happened at a different point in time?
Could very well be. Do you have any evidence of that?
It could be. Do you have any evidence of like? Oh my God, friend.
Yes.
Friend. I don't know because I don't have the footage from the distribution center. If the IDF wanted to clear themselves, they would have actually released the entire thing, right? Hey, we have the footage. We have an example of Hamas lying. On this day, here, look, from start to finish, the operating hours, when they say these people were here, we can show that it didn't happen, right? Now you're saying, hey, Prime, sitting here in your American city, hey, do you have that footage? Do you have any evidence?
Israel's lying.
No.
You think a country with like all the surveillance and intelligence would have like footage of their actions?
Presented, and specifically the evidence they presented is nothing, right?
Okay. Do you have any proof Israel's lying?
Great. It's for useful idiots like you who will take
they lie constantly
those
would be the
snippets,
proof.
right? Literally snippets of footage, and say, well, I guess this is proof nothing happened. How did you believe that? How did you believe that? You said you looked at this, right? How did you believe that?
Proof. They put forward proof.
No, they didn't. That's not proof. You don't understand what proof is. You don't understand what proof is.
Like Tyler, are you like?
Yeah,
come on, Tyler.
Because it seems like maybe I was wrong to respect your mind if you think that like that's proof. If you think
I don't know. I think you have
snippets,
a massive double standard on how much proof
You're
you need
ridiculous.
for Israel and then how much proof you need for Hamas. It's
I'm
massive. You have no proof.
I'm
of
giving
Hamas.
any
Can I
of
give you
the
simple.
things.
I said, hey, release the footage. Hold on. I'm saying, hey,
reported, yes.
hold on. It's not a double standard. It's it's simple, right? And I gave clear standard. They're saying the Palestinians are saying that this massacre happened on this day, right, at this distribution center. There are security cameras, apparently, according to the IDF and to the GHF. There's security cameras right there. If you wanted to prove it, right, here's a simple standard. And I would hold America, I would hold Germany, I would hold Venezuela to the standard. Hey, release the footage of the entire day. If the massacre happened, well, then you should find some evidence within that footage. What they release, according to Doobie, snippets. 25 seconds.
I put it in the chat. I put in the chat. It's literally 25 seconds.
Snippets of people firing at civilians.
No, again, not true.
I'm watching the video.
Yeah, I'm glad you are. I'm glad you are.
Hold on. Listen. I hate how much because of the circumstances, I'm gonna sound like a fucking commie tonight, right? But like, is it not standard practice at this point that if you're gonna be a political streamer that you've read like manufacturing consent, right? Like, listen, the story is not necessarily about what evidence is shown. It is about what is not shown. And that's not proof, right? But it is certainly a pattern, right? That should inform the way you view media, you view press release statements, etc. Right? Like when someone is accused, for example, of doing some lewd and lascivious acts during the Me Too statement, and like the dude comes out and is like, "I didn't do this. I was never there. This is all a lie." You're like, Well, I don't know. We'll have to see what the court says. But when a person comes out with like a 3-paragraph apology video that doesn't really say that they didn't do the thing, we all kind of know that they did the thing. All right. Or another example, right? Like when a mass shooting happens and we don't get the race or the gender of the person involved for like 3 days, everyone knows it wasn't a white guy. We immediately know it wasn't a white guy because the media will tell you it's a white guy the moment they say it's a white guy. Okay, and that right, it's about don't say right? Israel puts out but when Israel puts out something and they're like, oh, we have the drone footage, like 25-second edited together clips for some reason, and we didn't give you the full video or the exact location, and there's security footage nearby, but we didn't put that video out in any way, shape, or form. That's not proof that the thing happened, but it should certainly inform whether or not you think what they're saying is total fucking bullshit. Okay,
So,
Israel and the IDF and the journalists
accusation.
lie all the time about shit that's over there, and Hamas lies all the fucking time about what's over there. Now, Hamas lies almost every time they're reporting numbers, those numbers are going to be like blown up. They do it all the fucking time. But when it comes to like the incident of like who started what incident, sometimes it takes a long time, and a lot of that is Israel's fault. But again, when Israel or the IDF have footage, and instead of releasing a full drone footage unedited, or instead of releasing footage near the actual incident during the day, they give you a fucking clip as their proof that they didn't do anything. I think you should kind of err on the side. They put fucking